Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Community Spotlight. We are here with our sixth, I think it is, tutorial in our tutorial series, working alongside Speed Seasons. If you missed it yesterday, we had the Skyblazer race, and after that, we revealed the next Speed Seasons game is going to be Crash Team Racing All Cups. We've got HypnoShark here today, who is going to be walking us through that. But before we get started on that, just a few quick announcements. SGDQ 2021 Online is July 4th to the 11th. The games list is out and prize submissions are now open. You can go to gamesdonequick.com to find out more information about submitting prizes or see the full list of games that have been accepted to the event. Of course, Frame Fatales, the all-women speedrunning event, will be returning August 15th to the 21st with Flame Fatales. Game submissions will be open from May 18th to the 25th. So if you are a woman and you're interested in participating in that, or you know somebody who might, let them know. They can go to gamesdonequick.com/framefatales for more information on that. And of course, if you'd like to see more information on our hotfix shows, upcoming shows, what shows we have, or there's also a forum in the bottom left. You can let us know games that you'd like to see on hotfix. You can go to gamesdonequick.com/hotfix for all of that. If you're watching on YouTube, you'd like to support our live content, head over to twitch.tv/GDQ. That does work as a redirect to our main channel. Thank you very much, Twitch, for helping us out with that one. And if you have Amazon Prime, you have Prime Gaming. And of course, we would appreciate it if you consider subscribing to our channel, as Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits. Coming up tomorrow on Hotfix is actually Time Capsule with a special episode. We finally managed to make it happen. It's been getting thrown around as a bit of a joke for a long time, but Final Fantasy X speedrun on Hotfix. It's a little too long for one show, so they're just going to do it in two parts. So first part of Final Fantasy X speedrun is tomorrow, and then 2 weeks they're just going to pick up from their save and continue onwards and finish it off. If you'd like to see a Final Fantasy X speedrun, first time on GDQ ever, make sure you tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. But we've got HypnoShark here who's going to help us out with Crash Team Racing. How you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Yeah, just excited to get into this, really. I don't know how long this is going to take, I guess, because this game is just jam-packed full of tech. So we'll see. But I think the plan is going to be that I'll just show off basic tech. And then, we'll just go track by track and we'll see. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Would you tell people who are watching, because they're participating in Speed Seasons, or they're watching this later wanting to pick up this game, would you tell them what to expect when they're learning this game?
What to expect? So you're going to be seeing a lot of skips, a lot. But also you're going to be seeing, just fundamental racing, stuff, I guess, in terms of cornering, keeping your speed up by not hitting walls, that kind of thing, but also throwing that into unintended skips as well. So a bit of the mix of fundamental driving as well as crazy wacky nonsense that we love in speedrunning. So, but that's what I'd say personally.
Also, a quick apology, I had my microphone delay set wrong. Sorry if I cut off HypnoShark there. That didn't happen in Discord. That's my fault. But I'm good. You think there's anything that's important to cover before you get into tech, or do you just want to get going?
I think it's worth mentioning that before we get going, if I just go onto the track list here,
okay,
that there are 2 tracks that aren't going to be seen in this category. However, one of them is going to be in the main category, but again, you won't see it, and that's Oxide Station. You won't see this done in today, but just know that is important to learn if you want to proceed with learning this game more after the 2 weeks and after the race will happen in 2 weeks. But besides that, I guess I'll talk about character choices and game versions before we actually get into playing the game. So these are the 8 characters. Each character has their own set of stats. Coco and Engine are the characters I would recommend if you're just starting out with the game, because if I quickly actually, this would be quite good to show off. If I go to adventure mode, we're not going to be going into adventure mode, by the way, but if I just go in here, you can see the character stats. Crash is, basic, your normal character, as is Cortex. So those are like kind of the basic character. You don't really want to use these characters though. If you want to start with the fastest, like the optimal character, I guess, then play as either Tiny or Dingo. They have the same stats. However, this is hard, and you're going to have to do a lot of practice, basically. The characters I would recommend are Coco, because very good acceleration, and the turn, as you can see, is a lot better than Tiny's, which means you can kind of mess up and still be okay, because your turn can bail you out. And that's why I would recommend Coco and Engine. They have the same exact stats. And then I love these two characters, but they're the worst and should never be played ever, sadly. So let's just ignore that. we won't talk about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I haven't seen CTR in a while, but a few years ago, most of the runners were still using Coco and Engine.
Yeah, correct. It's kind of a recent development in terms of how long the game's been out. It was found in like 2017 that Dingo and Tiny might be faster, and then some strats got developed in some key areas, and now it's like there's a gulf of like 20-25 seconds now. So
oh wow,
Dingo's definitely taken off. The last thing I will say before getting into it, well, the last two things, is if you're on the European or Japanese versions of the game, there is a cheat character called Penta Penguin who has maxed out stats, and that is allowed. So look up the cheat code and use Penta Penguin if you're not on the American version. Sadly, on the American version, Penta Penguin has the exact same stats as Polar and Purah, who are the worst characters in the game. So, yeah, for this showcase, I'll be using Dingo personally. And, but yeah.
Yeah, I know for the race in 2 weeks, they're saying American or Japanese, just because they don't want to have to deal with PAL conversion for the race.
That's fair. I should mention then, if you don't have the game or are based in Europe and only have like access to the PAL version, there is like, I guess, yeah, there are disc leaderboards and there are emulator leaderboards. So you can just use an emulator. Every emulator except EPSXE is allowed. EPSXE is not allowed because it's very bad.
It focuses on smooth play, not accurate play, as far as what I'm aware.
Correct, yeah. So that's not allowed at all. But yeah, so if you are based in Europe and don't have access to the American and Japanese versions, you're fine. Like, that's fine. You can just use an emulator. And you can still be competitive because there are emulator-only leaderboards. So it's not like you're going to lose time to being on unofficial hardware.
Yep.
So that's very cool. Without further ado, I'll go to the first level, I suppose. So first level is Crash Cove. Very basic level. I'll actually just be using this level to show off mechanics, basically. So, the first thing, nice Coco. The first thing that was something. The first thing that I'll be showcasing is basically the power of drifting and boosting out of your drifts. If you're familiar with Mario Kart, the concept of a drift is the same, but you see this little meter in the bottom right. When we start a drift with R1, that meter, as you can see, kind of fills up. And what we want to do is when that's at its fullest, we want to hit L1. And you can do this 3 times before you have to restart a new drift to do it again. That is what this whole speedrun is based on, basically. And so by doing this, we're able to build up what we term as reserves. And what reserves are is basically, it's quite difficult to explain, but the way I always describe it is if you're boosting, every time you boost, you gain reserves, and every frame that you're not boosting, you're losing them. And it's a big tug of war to see if you can maintain the speed that you have. So basically, the more times you boost, the longer you will keep the speed that you currently have. And that's kind of the idea. And then you combine this with these turbo pads that are on the floor here. And if you drift off them, you can maintain the speed. And as you can see, we are going fast, and I'm running into oncoming traffic. That was a bad idea. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. And as you can see, I can just keep this forever.
So just sort of like imagine there's a second meter you can't see on the screen, and every time you boost, it just adds a little bit to that meter.
Absolutely, that's literally what it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's literally the perfect definition. So you combine this with intended like stuff in the game, such as, if I get to it, Wumpa Fruit. Now, Wumpa Fruit is acquired by getting these crates here. Nice, tiny, very good. And if you get them, obviously your Wumpa goes up, and every Wumpa that you get increases your car speed by 0.2% ish. It's around 0.2. I think technically it's like 0.18 or something, but doesn't matter. And actually getting to 10 only makes your items better. Getting to 10 for some reason doesn't actually increase your speed. 9 does the same as 10, so you're fine. Just get to 9 and everyone's happy. And I guess the final thing I will show off, well, the final two things, I suppose, but I'll have to go into a different track to show some other stuff, is simply double jumping, where you hit R1 and then hit R1 again, and you can get this kind of effect. And that makes shortcuts like this one and other stuff like very doable. So, for example,
what's the timing like on that?
So, okay, this actually leads into me talking about this game's buffer system, which is why this game is amazing, because I can literally just mash R1 here and I can get a jump. That was awful because I had no speed, but that would have made it if I had speed.
There's still a higher jump, yeah.
Yeah. So I can literally just mash R1 here, and I just make it. Because this game buffers inputs, which is going to be very useful in a lot of places. So yeah, okay, let me go into a different track to show off more stuff. But yeah, but honestly, just with that information alone, the idea of keeping reserves by boosting and not hitting walls, just with that knowledge alone, you're gonna be fine. Like, that's okay. Yeah, there are only really, I would say, 2 more techs that I want to show off. The first one I'll show off in this level. This looks like an advanced tech, but it is actually the easiest thing in the world. So what we're going to want to do is use the concept of reserves. Coco just keeps on doing that, and I have no idea why. We're just going to want to boost a lot. It doesn't really matter how much, just make sure your reserves are pretty high by just boosting. And then there are certain turbo pads in this game, this one being one of them right in front of me, where if I don't jump off it, I can literally just drive off it, and my reserves get stored into speed. I don't know why these turbo pads are like this, but they are, and it's great, because what it allows us to do is go really fast. Now, compared to the AI, as you can see, I just catch up on them a lot, and I'm here. And if that wasn't obvious, then this next section will be, because again, I'm just going to boost a bunch. I'm going to miss out Tiny because no one likes him. And then I'm going to get to that same exact turbo pad. And this will become very obvious. I'm not going to jump off it. And as you can see, we just fly. It's very important that once you're in this state, you don't boost. Because the moment you boost, and I'll show that off, the moment you boost, it instantly ends. As you can see, I've kind of lost all speed. And yeah, that's kind of it. But there are only 2 tracks in the game, or there are only 2 tracks in this run, technically 3, that have this, and I'll get on to the reason why that 3rd one is like that later. But yeah, very easy tech, but saves a lot of time in the places where it's useful.
So, very important question, because you just mentioned that nobody likes Tiny, which is obviously leads into that Dingo is the correct choice if you want the faster character, right?
So, okay, Dingo and Tiny are both able to be used. They are both optimal. Everything is fine. However, I would recommend Dingo, and this may seem stupid, but Tiny has a wider frame, and it can kind of make it hard to see past him. So I would recommend Dingo personally. But you can use Tiny and it's fine. Actually, the tool assisted speedrun for this game uses Tiny, which just shows that, you know, it doesn't really matter. But from a human standpoint, I would recommend Dingo.
Like I was trying to bait you into saying, yes, Dingo is correct, and you didn't take it.
I mean, it is. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, you know. I mean, you're not. Dingo is very correct. But, yeah, I mean, if you're a tiny guy, you're a tiny guy. I can't stop you.
Fair.
So this final tech before I get into tracks, this is called speed ghosting, or SGing. I'll refer to it as SGing from now on. What SGing is if you're on a downhill or an uphill, you can get a lot of speed, and then by using another trick called froggying, we can maintain that speed for longer. So what speed ghosting is getting the downhill momentum, or in some cases even uphill momentum of a ramp. And then froggying is holding L1 and mashing R1, and because, as previously mentioned, this game buffers inputs, what this allows you to do is maintain that speed for longer. Because for some reason, jumping in this game, actually, I'll show it off now. Basically, if I have 0 speed, if I jump, I just keep going really slowly, right? Like, I cannot gain any speed. Because jumping in this game maintains whatever speed you have. Which means, if I'm going really fast, I will keep going really fast as long as I'm jumping. So I'll try and get it here. Yeah, and as you can see, I get the downhill momentum there, and I'm able to keep it for a short while. That is going to be very useful in certain tracks. This one's kind of like a smaller speed ghost, I would say, but it's still useful to show off. And again, that's an example of a downhill speed ghost. I'll show you an example of an uphill one. Again, because jumping on these uphill pixels, basically, is increasing our speed, we're able to just jump and it's really fast. So like this.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I know in some other games there's similar tricks that work just because you can only effectively change your speed on the ground. Like you can only accelerate or decelerate while you're on the ground. So like first frame popping just maintains it. So probably something similar for this one.
Right, yeah. It's pretty similar, because like the idea is there that you get the speed whilst just playing. Like you're just, you're just driving around, you're just, doing whatever. And then suddenly you can like do this shortcut, for example, which I'll get into in more detail later. And like suddenly you're just going because, oh look, I went off a downhill, time to jump, and then you just go really fast. So, but yeah. And I think I'll get into tracks now. I will follow the same route that I did yesterday. However, it is worth mentioning, if I just go into the cup menu quickly, it is worth mentioning that you can do any of these cups in order in this category. Like, for the category all cups, you can literally do any cup in whichever order you wish to do it, and that's fine. So, I would personally recommend, if you're gonna do multiple runs and like you're planning on maybe doing some resets, I would recommend either Nitro or Crash Cup to start with, just because these tracks are harder. But
Yeah.
for the sake of this being a tutorial, I'm going to start with Wumpa Cup and we'll go from there. So, okay. So, first track of this run with this route, Crash Cove. And I used this track to explain a lot of the text earlier, because it's a very basic track. It's not as basic as some of the tracks, but it is like pretty linear, all things considered. So actually, I didn't even mention this. Start boosting in this game is very easy. It's a rhythm thing. It's very similar to boosting. You just tap X to build up the bar in the bottom right, and then when it's about to go, you hold it down. So like so, and that's it. It's not very challenging. So yeah, that's start boosting. Okay, and yeah, let's get into tracks. So I would recommend here, if you're just starting out with the game, literally just boosting and trying to take corners somewhat tight, but it doesn't really matter. Just try and be as clean as possible, basically. Like, for example, you want to go to the left side of this rock, obviously, because it's way higher. You don't really want to go out here. This is not it, Chief. In this track, it is fastest to only get one Wumpa crate. Again, just to remind you, if you weren't here or whatever. Every one Wumpa you get, you increase your cart speed by 0.2%. So you only get one Wumpa crate here, because on every other lap, you're going to want to go tighter and not go off this ramp. And optimally, in this lake shortcut, you would do a double jump, as said earlier. However, you would do a left input in between the two jumps, and by doing that, you get what we call a mid-air drift, where basically I mean, it says it in the name, you do a mid-air drift, literally.
And when you say
that,
left input, is that like tapping left or holding left?
I personally hold left, but you need to be careful, because if I just go back, I'll just do this again. If you hold left for too long, you can find yourself going into this wall, and that is obviously not what we want. So I personally hold it, but hold it with the knowledge that this wall exists. And once you're confident you've got it, you can kind of let go and keep concentrating on the track.
Makes sense.
Miscellaneous thing, but if you forget this, literally don't worry. On 3 tracks in this game, you can reduce lag at the start by holding R2 and looking backwards. It saves basically nothing, and is, yeah, I mean, if you remember it, very cool. I'll mention it when it's important. I mean, sure, man. But yeah, so once you jump onto this bridge, very basic, just try and drop down there to try and just get a double jump. I'll do that section again, because yes. And then from there, it's literally just rinse, repeat, except for you're going to get the turbo pads at the end of the level, which are going to increase your speed. So you'll just be doing it all, but a little bit faster. So again, just to show this off, just be on the bridge, all good. Drop down here, and then just, play it by ear. You can go really wide like this if you want to be safe and just keep your speed. Like, this is actually how I'd recommend playing when you're first starting out. Literally just, like, go really wide. Don't, like, worry about going, like, incredibly tight and optimizing turns. Literally just, go in the middle of the bridge if you're scared of falling off. Like, doesn't matter.
It seems like
go wide here.
Seems like if you're learning, just keeping the boost chain going is probably the most important thing at first, right?
Absolutely. Because this is like the whole concept behind this. And like, if you do hit a wall, then it's like you can still keep going. It's just not going to be as fast,
Yep.
But I mean, you can still do it, and it's fun. Overall, this is a very basic track. I mean, it isn't hard at all. Yeah, that's literally it. It's just the shortcut and the Wumpa fruit and somewhat okay lines, and that'll do. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. The only other thing I could maybe point out is on the bridge section, and this will be very useful in a lot of different places. And this is actually another reason why Purah and Polar are not very good in this game, because their turn stat is too good. For example, if I start a drift here and I'm drifting left, I want to hold right as soon as the drift begins. If I start a drift left and keep on holding left, and then I just dive bomb into the ocean, and it's not very good. But if I drift left and hold right, I can basically drift in a straight line. Because again, if I start drift right, for example, I can kind of drift in a straight line, like this. Like I'm pretty much going straight, right?
Yep.
Whereas if I start drift left and keep holding left, it's like this. And then suddenly I'm in a wall, and it's like very hard to save it, basically.
I also noticed on the bridge at one point you got very close to the edge, you kind of did a hop and then like fixed your angle. Is there like any particular way to do that? Like any best?
So to cancel out a drift, literally just stop holding R1.
Mm-hmm.
And this game has it like that. This game has a thing where the jump button is also the drift button, because you jump into your drifts in this game.
Yep.
So what you can do is let go of R1 to cancel out your drift. And then because you're still holding right, so for example there, I was drifting left, but I was holding right, as discussed earlier. And then because I'm still holding right, when I cancel out my drift and jump to the right, I'm able to save it. And that's kind of how you go tight in this game. But again, if you're just starting out, just go wide. Just play it safe. Keep your reserves up by boosting a lot, and everything's fine. Also, I want to be really cool here and snipe this Wumpa box with a bomb. Okay, I missed. That would have been very funny though. That would have been amazing. But yeah, so that's Crash Cove. It's really not that hard of a level. Again, if you're just starting out, just keep your reserves. Just play the game, and don't do anything too stupid, too risky, like going tight on the bridge section. Like don't be a hero. Don't go over here. Just go over here, and everything's fine. So yeah, that's pretty much this level, and we'll go on to the next track.
Seems like a good one for just like practicing your boost chain.
Yes, it's very good for practicing that. There's another track as well. The fourth track that I'll show is also like excellent for that. Which is Coco Park, just because as you can see by this like little video preview, you basically cannot fall off, and it's very wide, so you can just practice and get comfortable with the game. That's actually the track I'd recommend learning a lot of tech on. But okay, next track in this category, Tiger Temple. Tiger Temple is the bane of every unlucky man's existence, because this is one of two levels that has an RNG shortcut, and this is the only RNG shortcut in the game that's intentional. Basically, we want to pull an item that we can throw forward, because there is a wall on this level that by throwing an item at it, you can break it. So we're going to try and get either a potion, a bomb, or a shield. Okay, so that item you can only get in second. That is a mask, and that is the best item in the game. May as well talk about this. Okay, I got a potion there. You are not supposed to get this item in this level. That is not supposed to happen. That's really stupid.
That's really funny.
Yeah, but so yeah, you want a potion, a bomb, or a shield. I'll try and get an item here. There's this little grass shortcut here where you can just kind of drift across it. I'll talk about that more in depth on lap 2 and 3. But yeah, let's just focus on this shortcut for now. So yeah, I get a potion, I throw it out this wall. You can actually see it on the mini-map. There's like a little line. That's kind of your visual cue. And yeah, it's a very easy shortcut. To throw items forward, you just hold forward on the D-pad while hitting circle, and that's kind of it. So this grass shortcut here, again, if you're just starting out, literally just go wide. Or if you're confident, you can try it, but just go wide. It's no biggie. But if you want to do it, basically you get a speed ghost from this downhill, and then you're able to carry that speed ghost over the grass section by spamming hop and maintaining that speed ghost speed. Again, if you weren't here, speed ghosting is where you go from a downhill and maintain its speed by froggying, which is spamming R1 and holding L1. So we're going to do that. And here is the main part where, as you can see, we got a lot of speed. That was actually not very good. Hopefully I'll show it off better on lap 3. This downhill here is another example of a speed ghost. Basically, this is a general rule of thumb. Any downhill can be abused for a speed ghost. Like, literally anything. Even some uphills can, but downhills especially, doesn't matter how small the downhill is, it can work. So this is another good example. Combine this with the shortcut, and you get something like this. And it looks pretty cool. So, okay, this is an example of an item that doesn't work. A nitro, I cannot throw forward, I just have to place it behind me. Let's see if I can get a better example of it here. Yeah, something like that. So, again, what happened there and why I got that mid-air drift was similarly to Crash Cove. I hit left and then was just spamming R1. And because the drift and the jump aren't the same in this game, because I was holding a direction, it gave me a drift rather than a jump. And that's why I was able to do that. So, yeah. Again, a pretty basic level. But a little bit of RNG with this shortcut here. And obviously, I'm going to hold forward and hit circles to show you cannot throw nitros forward. And, yeah, that's pretty much it for this track. If you have to go wide, you have to go wide, and that's just kind of it.
I like how the camera even bugs out when you get close to the wall, because you can't go through it.
Yeah, it's almost like giving it away. Like, yeah, it's pretty funny how the game just doesn't really know what to do in that situation.
I also enjoy that you got a mask and 2 throwables while you're, like, just doing a tutorial.
I mean... of course, the moment I put a timer running, the game just patches itself to make Nitro's 99% chance.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, the game knows.
Did you get any masks yesterday at all? I don't remember seeing many.
No. So, I may as well say the mask percentage rates, they are very low. So, you can't get one in first at all.
Oh, okay.
And in second to fourth, it's 13%. And from 5th to 8th, it's 25%, I think. That could be wrong. I'm waiting for some absolute legend to correct me in the chat. But that's the idea. Another TNT. Lovely. But yeah, that's the idea. So it is actually a strat in many instances to hope that the AI get a good start. So maybe the first item you can get lucky. But on the whole, very rarely happens. Like, once every 10, 15 runs, maybe you'll get one if you're lucky. Depending on the tracks that you make it to, but yeah. And again, like, if you do get unlucky, like I'm getting here, literally just, like, play solid and just don't hit a wall. Just go wide, center of the track. Just maintaining your reserves and boosting a lot is what we want from a new player. We don't really want to see like ridiculously tight lines if you're going to hit a wall 50% of the time. It's just not worth it. That was a really good example of a grass shortcut, actually. But yeah, you just want to be middle of the road. and just play like really, really just solid and be fundamentally sound. But if you do have a lot of reserves stacked up, then you can take the time to maybe go for some froggies like this. And if you're confident that you're going to keep your speed, then you can definitely do that and save a couple seconds. But that's Tiger Temple. Again, not too hard of a track, but very simple way to start the run. This next level is where things start getting a little bit... Mask is 1% in first. That is true in Nitro Fueled. That is the remake of this game.
Okay.
That is not true here. Yeah. Mr. Quiet. Okay, so I may as well explain this.
I was going to ask, yeah.
So, okay, Kieran SR, good friend and good mod of mine, is going to love this because he found this. So basically, that shortcut, the RNG shortcut, can be used to, can be used for one lap, right? Obviously, because that's how it works. And then by the time you get to the next lap, the door is shut and you have to get another lucky item. If you get a shield item, which you can launch forward, you can launch the shield item at the door, but you can use the shield before getting another item. And if you get a shield into a TNT, you can drop the TNT where the door is, and the door will stay open because it can't shut because the TNT keeps it open. And Kieran SR decided to call it the Mist Tech because he's a Super Smash Bros. Player and he thought saying the Mist Tech was very funny. You get it if you get it. If you don't get it, you don't get it. We move on. He's going to be absolutely buzzing that I've name dropped him twice there. And okay, Fuzzy Bluff. So this track has 9 shortcuts and is like a minute long. So there's a lot to unpack here. Luckily, if you win the Tiger Temple race, which you should, because you can, by the way, I should mention, you can play this on easy mode. So you can just have like the worst AI ever and you're just fine. Because you start in first, you don't have to deal with the AI being on the left here because you're the furthest to the left, which means you can do this shortcut instantly by just getting the star boost and frogging. And you just can do this. Very easy. And this is the first shortcut. And this is 2 of the 3 that are intentional. And one of them is most certainly not intentional. This boulder cycle is consistent, so you can learn it and get it down. That boulder cycle is actually very annoying because if you get a really, really, really good first shortcut here, then the boulder is kind of in your way and it kind of forces you to go wide. But there are instances like this where you can beat the boulder, which is very nice. This is the second shortcut. If you're failing this, don't worry. You can literally just go over here and you lose like 2 seconds per lap. It's really not the worst thing in the world. But basically here we're going to jump over the lake. And this is, as I say, going to say like 2.5 seconds. Very useful to get this turbo pad so you have more speed when you reach it. And then simply just jump at the apex, and that is it. This is going to be instantly combined into the next shortcut, where we're going to combine the concept of froggying, which is holding L1, spamming R1, and the concept of double jumping, which is buffering these inputs to get a really big jump. This shortcut is hard. I wouldn't be surprised if I fail it. It happens. Basically, we're going to do the first jump to put ourselves near the rail, and the second jump to jump over it. So here we go. Let's see if I get it. Like that. And that's like a perfect example of it, basically. The reason why it's important to do the first jump is because nice. Why is it always Coco today? That's crazy. the reason why it's important to do this first jump is because if you don't, let me keep that fire from this. If you don't, for whatever reason, you'll just go really slow through the snow, and then you won't have the speed to make it. Okay, that was not what I was expecting at all. But yeah, so okay, that wasn't.
So even though you made it, it's more difficult if you don't do the first jump.
Yeah, that was not supposed to happen. Supposed to fail that. Anyways,
you're just too much of a god gamer, I guess.
I don't know, man. That was pretty lucky. I don't know about that. But yeah, that's basically the whole track. I'll talk a little bit more about this boulder just because it can be annoying. It's basically just worth learning where you think it's going to be. Depending on your lap times, I would recommend after lap 1 seeing what lap times you're getting and then kind of learning the boulder cycles that gives you, and from there you can kind of build a knowledge like for where you think it's going to be. So for example, I got a 24 lap, so it's going to be in a certain spot here, and then so on. Actually, about this category specifically, in adventure mode, which is where most of the main categories take place, the lap times are actually shown below the main in-game timer. For some reason in arcade mode, that isn't the case, but it's fine because you can just look at your lap one time and you can get a certain amount of like information based off that alone. But yeah, and also last but not least, if you are struggling with these shortcuts, because they are genuinely hard, that's probably the easiest shortcut of the level, and the other two are quite hard. If you are struggling, just go wide. Just don't worry about it. Again, just keeping your speed here is fine. And failing that shortcut, the rail one, is pretty, bad and will lose you quite a lot. So, a good example of this not losing much time is the fact that earlier I mentioned that I got a 24-second lap. Here, I didn't do any shortcuts except the first one, which is very easy, and I got a 29. So you only lost like 4.5 seconds. So don't beat yourself up if you're not doing it, because, yeah, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I'll finish this off just to hopefully show what a good lap 2 and 3 will look like. And then, yeah, we'll get on to Cocoa Park, which is a very, very basic track and a great way to learn stuff. So.
Yeah. Also assuming that going for the jumps and not making them more hitting the walls because you're trying to turn too tight would put you behind in 29 second pretty significantly.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just like it's a constant theme of this game basically. But if you know you can do something, you should do it. And if you cannot do something but feel like, oh, this run sucks, why not go for it? The game's gonna punish you for that. Do not go for it. Just play, turn a blind eye to the plus 30 second splits and just play, But yeah, so that's Blizzard Bluff. A lot of shortcuts in that level. But again, don't have to go for them if you don't feel confident in them. But with them, in 2 weeks' time. And Cocoa Park. This level is so simple. There isn't really too much to like deep dive into here. There's no like cycles with a boulder or anything like that. Nice star boost. It's literally just a couple of speed ghosts from downhills and a couple of froggies. This being one of them. What you want to do, my visual cue for this is getting to the yellow part and then just frogging, and being on a similar line to where I am here should yield somewhat success. Worth mentioning also that you hit a turbo pad at the end of this lap, making the shortcut easier on lap 2 and 3. So if you want, to be honest, I'll show you this actually. If you want, on lap 1, you don't have to go for this. if you just want to play it safe. And you can just go wide, get this one per crate here, and then just do this. And this still saves time. Cutting over that little patch of grass is still nice. You build up a lot of reserves here. Like a lot. You can just drift through this, doesn't matter. This is more time save, you know. It's not optimal, but it will do. And then you have all this speed from the turbo pads and all these reserves built up, so you can risk-free go for this and not worry about losing your speed at the end of it. And I would go for something like that. That wasn't too optimal, but that wasn't bad. Here, as previously mentioned, on certain uphills and every downhill, but on certain uphills, froggying by holding L1 and mashing L1 is what you want to do. And this is the perfect example of this. So I'm just going to jump up this hill. And this is just saving, believe it or not, like half a second per lap. It doesn't look like it does much at all, but it does quite a bit. And yeah, it's very nice. And yeah, once again, on any downhill, you can get a speed ghost and try and frog it out to keep that speed. And that's basically it for this track, honestly. There isn't too much. Besides these speed ghosts here, and this speed ghost here, and then this speed ghost here, and that's literally like it. And I actually got all three of them there, so that was actually a very good example of a good lap. Again, though, if you want to just play it safe, you can just do this grass shortcut here, like this. This is perfectly fine. And then instead of froggying down here, you can just drift through this to keep your reserves high. And then you can go for this SG because there's no risk in this.
And SG is Speed Ghost?
Speed Ghost, correct, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's literally it for Coco Park. There is not much else to say, really. Yeah, actually, one more thing. Very niche. But if for whatever reason, just because it's your first run or whatever, you didn't win, or like you got like sixth or something, doesn't matter, by the way, because this category just requires you to finish the races, doesn't require you to win. What you can do is if you're starting behind the AI, let's say I mess up a start boost, you can actually, because these iron boxes are so near the start, you can do what I accidentally did earlier and try and get a mask. And that is a great help because masks do not care about off-road. So you can do all these shortcuts risk-free and very fast if you happen to be in that situation. But yeah, besides that, that's pretty much it for Coco Park. Yeah, but very basic level.
So someone in chat's asking about Speed Ghost. We covered that at the start of the show. Probably not worth going in depth about it again. But it's just a technique for preserving your increased speed throughout a section of the track.
Yeah, so basically it's most commonly found out of a downhill. So you get the downhill momentum off something. Actually, perfect example coming up here in Ruse Tubes. You can see just on this track preview the amount of downhills there are. This one coming up being the main one. You carry this for like a long time. But yeah, it's most commonly found on downhills, sometimes on uphills. And you manage to maintain that speed for as long as you can. I see Bucci saying home because he's always resetting and always ends up back here, so he calls it his home. Very good. So this is Ruse Tubes. As I just said, a lot of opportunities to speed ghost. This is one of them, literally 2 seconds into the level. We're just going to hold L1, mash R1, and yeah, we're just going to go. Those get a lot faster on lap 2 and 3 once you touch this turbo pad. That's actually probably the like weakest example of a speed ghost in this level. This is where it gets strong. I would recommend, actually, if this is your first run or whatever, or you're just not comfortable with the game yet, I would highly recommend drifting everywhere, building up your reserves. Just middle of the track, just doesn't matter. So that you can do this, because this is so fast if you do it, like, even remotely okay. Hold L1, mash R1. Once you reach the shadow that's on the floor, you'll see what I mean by that in a second. And yeah, just fly. I reach the shadow, I start mashing, and I mean, it speaks for itself. You just go. Yeah, and you reach here. You can go wide of this mushroom, but this off-road shortcut is very easy. Just don't jump in the off-road, because you will instantly slow down and lose your speed ghost. Like that, I kind of slowed down, you saw. But basically, I'll try and show off what a good lap looks like now. Or what a good like lap 1 and maybe 2 look like. But this whole track is just based around the speed ghost, and yeah, it's absolutely insane and a very big reset point, because you can just lose like 3 seconds if your PB gets an insane speed ghost and you don't. You can just lose time, and it's like, oh, sure, like, looks like I'm losing 3 seconds now, yay. But yeah, again, I would recommend just keeping reserves so that you can use them all here. And by the way, if you don't get a strong one like this isn't that strong, I would just start my drift here, just to play it safe and keep your speed, keep your reserves. I'll go wide of the mushroom lap 3 just to show what that looks like. But there's a lot of small things to this track that add up. For example, actually, I'll point this out. At the end of this straight, when we go into the turn to the right and then the turn to the left, I'm actually going to stop frogging for about half a second in an attempt to utilize a smaller downhill. And this kind of just shows how many downhills can be abused no matter how small they are. So I'm going to get this speed ghost here. Now, this downhill that I'm about to go on, you wouldn't even think that I can do anything with this because of how small it is. It's literally just a dip in the road, basically. But I'm able to like jump out of it and then keep going all the way up the hill. That wasn't actually that good of a speed ghost, probably because I paused and messed myself up a little bit. But I'll try and show that off like in a better way here, because that just kind of shows the power of speed ghosting. But a downhill that small can mean so much. And yeah, so again, I'll show it off, and I'll also show going wide of the mushroom as well. So here we go. I'll stop frogging here, and then I mean, yeah, that was pretty much all from that very small downhill, and I was able to frog it all the way up that hill, and then go inside the mushroom. I actually went inside the mushroom out of muscle memory, but yeah, okay, I'll remember to go outside this time. But yeah, so again, hold L1, mash R1, or vice versa. You can do either or. And yeah, I'll show going wide here. You can just go wide. You have all the room in the world, and yeah, you can just
don't jump in the dirt.
Just do not jump in the dirt, and I'll show you why. Actually, it's a good thing to show off. If you do jump in the dirt, basically the game will recognize quicker that you're on off-road, and it will slow you down. Very simple reasoning. But
do you do the same thing from the cove to like instantly drift in the dirt, where you like hit left
like that, so
between the jump, or because you're like landing and going into a drift immediately? Like, how do you set that up?
Yeah. So, fun fact actually, with this, you don't ever let go of R1 because you've mashed R1 so many times down that back straight.
Mm-hmm.
You can just hold it, and it's buffered the drift for you because you've mashed it so many times. So you can just hold it. You don't need to time anything. You literally just hold it. And yeah, that's why you don't keep mashing, because if you kept mashing, you would get another jump, and you would jump in the off-road, and that would be bad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, you literally just hold it, and everything's good. Okay, so next track, Dingo Canyon. This track is kind of similar in the way that there is a big downhill that you'll see on this video preview right there. That's quite a big downhill that we'll utilize to go through this lake section faster. With a bit of luck, hopefully I can get like a really good speed ghost, because this level can just randomly give you the most insane stuff for literally no reason. Yeah, well, I'll try and show that off. But very simple lap 1. This level probably has the most basic lap 1 compared to lap 2 and 3. Because on lap 2 and 3, we're going to be cutting across this sand here. Only saves half a second, so don't really worry if it's like your first run. It's probably the most unnecessary shortcut to learn. But I'll be showing it off anyway, just because. But very basic. Just go around and then down this hill. This is the perfect time to mention, do not jump downhills ever, because what will happen is your cart will go really, really high, but with no speed at all, and it just looks ugly. You'll see it here. It looks very awful and gross. Here you go. It looks a bit like this, and it's the worst. And as you can see, I'm going very slow now because, yeah, it's awful. It's a whole lot of nothing.
You didn't even get the speed from the downhill when you do that.
No,
so you can't speed ghost it.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, it is not very good. So instead, what we do is drift down this hill, and then when we reach the bottom of it, that's when we try and get a speed ghost from a Froggy, which again, mashing R1, holding L1. And it looks something like this. That wasn't very good at all, but lap 2 and 3 should be better because we hit this turbo pad. These armadillo cycles here are pretty whatever. It's worth learning though, just because if I get to that section again, you'll see that I'm kind of coming at them from round a corner. So I'm kind of like not really sure where they are, and I have very little time to react because again, coming from round a corner. That's a much better speed ghost. There you go. But yeah, I'm coming from around a corner, so I kind of need to like react if I haven't learnt it. And by the way, this fork in the road that I just went through, going right side is faster and also more applicable to lap 1 because there is a Wumper crate around there that you may have seen. I'll show it off again. But yeah, you can get 9 Wumper or 10 or however many if you get lucky. And this final jump, you can just jump like this, and it's perfectly fine to just do one jump. But optimally, you would actually do a triple jump there, where you jump at a certain time, and then get 2 more jumps after it, and you go way further. It basically is a very niche thing that saves like half a second, I would say. Which is funny, because it saves about as much as this shortcut here, which you wouldn't think. But basically, we're going to try and get a speed ghost off of this tiny downhill. It's almost like a hump in the road, pretty much. And from there, we're going to be able to either drift or Froggy through the sand. Doesn't really matter which you want to do. And yeah, even if you don't get a speed ghost, it still saves half a second. So
really?
If you can do it, then it's a free half second. But if you get an SG, then it's a second. So, like, I didn't get an SG there, so that saved half a second. It'll look a lot faster if I get one. But, yeah. Also worth mentioning that this fork in the road here, again, right side is faster, but you can go left side, and it doesn't lose too much time. It loses, like, point, I don't know, it's something silly, like point, like 4 or something. It's not too much. Again, no SG. I'll try and restart and get a SG there because that section can be done a lot quicker than that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Dingo Canyon. It's a track that is as complex as you want it to be, basically. If you want to go for all the fancy stuff, you can, but you can also just do this and get to the bottom and then just drift and just avoid the water as much as possible, and that's fine too.
So I noticed that sometimes at the bottom of that big hill, you're getting these big jumps out of the water. Is that important, or does it just happen sometimes?
So, I'll I'll get back there and I'll stop and I'll kind of point out what's happening. Yeah, again, you can just do that and that's fine too. It's very risk-free. But so basically, this little bit in the road here, you can kind of see that can you see that under the water there?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a ramp almost, and that is also on the front. And as you can see, like Dingo's car is kind of like lopsided, and that's because that's actually a kind of a ramp. So if you're going quite fast and you just happen to buffer the R1 input at the right time, you can get like a really high jump like that. That's perfect example. You can just go really high. And optimally, the chances of this happening are quite rare, but when it does happen, it's very cool. Is you get a jump off of this, and you have so much speed that you land about here, and you jump off of the side of this. As you can see, it's very glitchy and weird.
Yeah.
And you get like a monstrous SG, and you just go flying, and it's amazing. I've only had it like 6 or 7 times, but when it does happen, it's very cool.
So just depending on when you start SGing, it might happen, and if you line it up right, you can save some time, but it's not like important to go for kind of thing.
No, because as previously mentioned, you can just boost like what I'm doing now, and it's like perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
Like, because another thing that I should mention also is when you are speed ghosting and when you are froggying, you're not boosting. So your reserves are going down. So a mistake a lot of people will make is, for example, you go off this downhill and you're like, wow, I got a speed ghost, I'm gonna froggy, I'm so smart. And then it's like, wait a minute, I'm out of reserves. Wait a minute, and now I'm going really slow. So you have to kind of know the balance between when to froggy and when to just boost because your reserves are low. And that's a fine line that you can only really learn from just playing the game and just messing around in it, really. Like, it doesn't even have to be like practice on a specific thing. Literally just messing around in the game will teach you small things like that. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. The last thing I haven't really gone over is this triple jump coming up. This triple jump here, you basically jump like just after this little indent to the right of Dingo in the road. And again, hold L1, mash R1. I might mess this up because I paused, but we'll see. Yeah, I messed up. That would have worked, by the way, but I jumped over the turbo pad, which isn't exactly ideal. Yeah, and what this does is it simply propels you further than a normal jump would. And this is a concept that has been seen in other areas too. But I haven't like really put it into one specific like trick, I guess. And this is a very specific thing. It's just this ramp. You jump, hit the edge of the turbo pad, and do it. That was actually bad. I barely went over the edge, so I didn't really get it. I'll try it again here. That was still fine, though. As long as, I don't die or something, then it's fine, That's an example of a good SG. You saw how I kind of got propelled a little bit. You can actually keep it all the way until here, believe it or not. That's how crazy it can get. But, yeah. So again, I'll try it. Jump about here. That's better. So that's like the perfect triple jump, basically. And, yeah. Get a speed ghost off that downhill to do this sand shortcut. And then we'll try this one more time. Oh my goodness. Okay, that was good again. If I didn't get so much height from that last propulsion, I guess, then that would have been like insane. But still good. And yeah, that's basically Dingo Canyon. That was actually a very good Dingo Canyon right there. 29, 27, 27 is really good. 26 is technically optimal, but yep, getting that. How? Like, actually how? So yeah. Okay. This next track is probably one of my favorite tracks in the game, honestly. But it's really, really hard. It's one of those levels that, like, if you have played this game as a kid or whatever, you may not think of it as, like, quote-unquote difficult, but it's just very precise and very technical and will punish you for a lot of small things. So, basically, we start off with instantly a downhill, which you know what that means by now. We're gonna froggy out of it and try and get a speed ghost. From there, this lake shortcut, if you go too far to the left, then you just die. The game counts you as out of bounds. I'll actually show that off. The game just counts you as out of bounds. So for example, if I go like here, the game just picks me up and is like, why did you do that? But if you go a little bit further right than that, you can just completely cut off that turn. And that's very nice. So here, I'll show it off. You can literally just drift through it, and it saves time. Optimally, what you do for this is you do a double jump into it and kind of propel yourself out of the water using ground that you actually can't see. So I'll try and get an example. Like that, and that is faster because less time in the water, the better. Because obviously the water is slowing you down. So that is obviously not what we want. Now, there is a tech coming up that I haven't talked about yet, and that's because it has not been useful yet until now. And that is U-turning. If you've played Nitro Fueled, the remake of this game, you may or may not be very familiar with this tech. If not, basically what you're going to be doing is hitting R1 to do a jump, and then down, either left or right, depending on which way you want to go, and square, which is the brake button. The reason why you want to do this is because, yes, Dingo has bad turning, but by U-turning, you sacrifice your speed in exchange for one really tight turn. And that is useful here, because if I try and drift into this minecart, I hit the wall. Dingo's turn just can't do it. However, if I U-turn, and then Froggy, which, as we talked about, kind of maintains my speed, I am able to get something like this. Hopefully I can do it. It will be a lot better on lap 2 and 3 because I'll have more speed, but basically I U-turn and then I'm able to Froggy. And as you can see, the minecart, the minecart track, even though it is off-road, it didn't really slow me down because I froggied. I was able to maintain the speed that I had before I U-turned. And that's kind of a power that I think the game developers may have not seen. The fact that jumping and using jumping to maintain your speed is just so powerful. And yeah, combine that with U-turning and yeah, you have the minecart shortcut. This is an intended shortcut, but is very easy. However, there is a nasty, nasty, nasty thing that can happen to you if you are not careful. If you jump over this finish line, the game can sometimes not count your lap. It is the worst, and I hate it. I'll try and get it to show off, even though I haven't on purposely done this maybe ever. So this should be fun. Yeah, there you go. I actually got it. So I'm in 8th now.
Good.
Why? Because the game hates me. That's why. So, yeah. And believe it or not, if you try and go backwards and are like, haha, now it'll count my lap. No. Now you're just in last, a lap behind easy mode AI, and it's very sad. But yeah, basically my recommendation is that you don't drift. Oh, you don't jump, at all. You just drift over that section because just don't risk it. You're playing with fire, and it's not what you want. So yeah, again, I'll actually get to lap 2 this time, and hopefully I'll keep this turbo pad and its speed that I get from it, with the idea of using this speed when I get to the minecart shortcut and U-turning. There is an advanced strat here that I'll go over. It's called quad jump, and you can imagine why it's called that, because you jump 4 times. Ideally, in this minecart section, we do 3 jumps, and then the 4th jump puts us on a little ridge in the minecart track, and we use that ridge to do a jumping U-turn, but we've buffered by mashing R1 with the froggy, and we're able to U-turn back onto the main track. So I'll try and show that off. It is pretty hard though, so let's see if I get it.
It's funny because you explained the double jump, you explained the triple jump, and I was like sort of smart ass in my head going, is there a quad jump? How far does this go?
This is the only example of it, which is why we just call this the quad jump. But yeah, I mean, technically there's as many jumps as you want there to be, because my god, like Ruse Tubes, for example, the track with the big downhill that we just went over, and you jump like 20 times per lap in that level. So, you know, whatever you want to call that. But yeah, so I am going to just try my best to keep my reserves, and hopefully I can make a quad jump. We'll see. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I got it. There you go. So that's the idea. That was actually very close to failing it. You saw how close I was to falling off there. But that's a pretty advanced strat, which I wouldn't really recommend. But yeah, that's the idea. The closer you can get to the minecart entrance, the better. Because that means that you're like closer to the ending. If you do the U-turn out here, then it's like you have a lot more ground to cover. Whereas if you do it here, then you're a lot closer to your destination, basically. Also, if you're just starting out, then U-turning is still useful. It'll also be useful like a lot later on in the run, but it's also useful here, because the intended way to doing this with Dingo, you just can't make it because your turn is garbage. As you can see, you just hit every wall imaginable. So what I would do instead is, still using the U-turn technique, I would combine U-turning with this froggying concept of mashing R1 and holding L1. And I would simply just do that to completely bypass everything. So it doesn't really matter what speed you're going, and just U-turn. And it's a lot easier, and yeah, it's just better. Even if you have to sacrifice your speed and reserves to do it, it's just worth it, because Dingo's turn just cannot. And that is one reason why at the start of all of this, I recommended playing as Coco and Engine if you're just starting out. Because Coco and Engine's turn can deal with situations like that a lot easier. So yeah, that is why I would recommend that, basically. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Dragon Mines. Very complicated level. I didn't even really touch on the minecart cycles, which are consistent. But again, it's worth learning. Similar to Blizzard Bluff, it's worth kind of learning. Similarly to where that boulder was in Blizzard Bluff, it's worth learning the minecart cycles as well, so you can avoid them. But yeah, that's it for Dragon Mines. Very short level, but very complex. And yeah, just don't jump over the finish line. Whatever you do, just do that. Just drift.
Yeah.
Because it's the worst.
So how about we do the next track? That'll take us, I think, halfway through the tracks,
yeah,
and then we can take a break.
That is 8 out of 16 after this track. So yeah, that's lovely. Sounds good to me. So this next track, Sewer Speedway. This is maybe the longest level so far, I believe, but it's a contender for hardest level so far out of the tracks that I've showed you. This level has barrel cycles, where basically there are 2 barrels in this level, and you kind of need to learn where they are at most times. But luckily, the first barrel that you'll see can help with your understanding of where the second barrel is. So that's quite good. First of all, I'm gonna exploit the use of double jumps off these ramps. That's very important. You can get a big propulsion like that, go really high, even though I just started the race and didn't have much speed. Again, I did that by holding L1, mashing R1, and I go really, really high. I'm going to do a double jump here as well, like that. I'm going to get this bumper through, and now we have an intended shortcut, but it's actually somewhat difficult. I might mess this up, honestly. It's been a while, which means it's the perfect opportunity to mess it up in front of 1,000 people. But basically, what we're going to do is get a small speed boost off of this downhill. And then you see that little gap just above the pause menu. We're going to be jumping through that. And even though the minimap suggests, hopefully I make it, even though the minimap suggests, oh look, you can go over here and this is a cool area that is very cool and pog, and you can jump off here and it's very cool and you can do a 360 because you're a legend. And, you know, that's fine. But that's actually slow, which is really sad because that area is very cool. But it's faster to just fall off to the right because that area kind of takes you wide, which is not really what we want. I mean, you can go over here if you wish, but it loses like a second. It's much faster to just jump off to the right and continue on the main path. So this barrel cycle here, the first barrel cycle isn't too much of a worry because you have plenty of time to react to it. This second one is awful because it's right around this corner and you're going to be going into a kind of glitchy speed ghost. This speed ghost is unlike any speed ghost we've seen yet, mainly because whilst it is from a downhill, it's not from a conventional, like, just, you know, normal downhill. It's from the side of the half pipe, basically. You see how this track is kind of curved at the edges. We're going to be using that curve to get a speed ghost and hopefully combine two back to back to get like an insane amount of speed, hopefully. So yeah, that's the idea. This barrel might be in the way. It nearly was. We're going to stay on this side. And as you can see, the track kind of curves down. And that's what we're going to use to get an SG. And then we're going to combine this with another one. Again, don't do this if you're new. Literally just drive center of the road, keep your reserves. Like, that's still perfectly fine, but this is optimal. So we're going to get this, and then we're going to get this. And that's the hard one. And then you can maintain this all the way until here. And as you can see, I lost reserves. My exhaust has kind of gone white. But I still had so much speed from that SG that I was able to just not really care and just keep jumping anyway because the speed was just that insane.
Was that using the downhill of like coming down the side of the wall to speed ghost?
Yes, and that's why I said that it's not very conventional. It's very different. So yeah, that's common. Basically, that happened there, and that's a common reset point. That happened there because I went too high on the wall, and the wall kind of pushed me off it. Because you'll notice if I go too high up the wall here, it kind of pushes me off like that. And that's what happened there. I went too high up, and it pushed me off, and it pushed me into the middle. That's the fine balance of this speed ghost, because if you go too low, you don't really get anything because you're not really on a downhill. But if you go too high, then you get thrust into the middle of the two paths and you bonk, and it's sad. But yeah, so again, I'll just show like what I would recommend you do if you are just starting with the run. I would recommend, honestly, I know it's an intended shortcut, but if you don't feel comfortable with it, you can literally just do this. Like, you can just go this way, take a somewhat tight line, just stay on this upper section. That only loses like 2.5 seconds per lap. It's really not that big of a deal. And then, again, just stay middle of the road and just get a good look at the barrel cycle, avoid it, and stay middle of the road. Go this side because you're on an inside line, and yeah, that's it. That only lost like 5 seconds to what I would usually get optimally. And that was just me. I didn't do any shortcuts or any speed ghosts or anything. So, and it's only 5 seconds per lap, which is nothing really. especially if you're just starting out. So that's what I'd recommend if you're just starting out. This track is very difficult, and again, a main reset point, especially in the main category. Any percent no major glitches. It's definitely a hard level. So yeah. Again, intended shortcut. Again, you can stay on the path. You don't really want to. Just drop down. Make sure to get the Wumpa crates to get 10 Wumpa, which is obviously just fast. And then, yeah, stick to the walls. That's an example of the barrel cycle being off. In a run, the barrel cycles will be 100% consistent. The only reason that was off is because I've hit restart like 5 times, and it was
okay.
So that is completely consistent. It's just I've hit retry a bunch.
But if you're like starting the level fresh on load, it'll be the same every time?
Yeah, because this category is all cups, and you've just come from Dragon Mines. So you didn't do this track yet, so it'll be the same every time.
Okay.
And you can do Sewer Speedway, and then instead of hit restart, hit quit or change level, go back into Sewer Speedway, and it'll be consistent still. It's just hitting retry, basically, or restart, that messes up the cycles a little bit. But,
so if you're practicing and you want to, like if you're practicing for the race, definitely like fully leave and restart so that the cycles are consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you could make a save state if you're on emulator.
Yeah.
That is an option you have. But that's actually a very good practice tool. So yeah, optimally it'll look something like this. The fact that the barrel was on the right there tells me that this barrel is going to be on the left. Very good. So again, but that's what I mean by it being consistent. You can tell from the first barrel where the second barrel is going to be, which is a good thing because the second barrel you're kind of coming at it from rounded turns, so you can't really see it. It's hard to react to because of it. So,
and each runner can learn their own cues for that. Like if you're not taking lines as tightly as Hypno here, not going for all the speed ghosts, but you're like playing consistent, you'll still be able to like predict your own barrel cycles.
Yeah. So for example, I got a 34 lap one. But if you're getting 40 lap ones, then you can kind of learn what the barrels do for 40-second laps if you're doing it every time. And from there, you can kind of build like a knowledge, like kind of, I guess, database in your brain of like what certain laps give you what and like what you're most comfortable with. So yeah, that's kind of what I would recommend doing. With these levels that have cycles in them, I just recommend playing them like a couple times and just getting a feel for where the boulders or the barrels or the minecarts are. And that's really all you can do. There's no substitute for the hours you put into a game. That goes for speedrunning any game. So, yeah, but especially this, there truly is no substitute. So, yeah, and that's Sewer Speedway. As long as I can get this last SG, will be good. And Crash is in my way, and that was very annoying, nearly. But yeah, low 141 is very
Crash
nice.
And not Coco that time.
Yeah, my God. I mean, Coco was in last, so that explains a lot, right? But yeah, and that's Sewer Speedway. And I think you said we were going to a break. Yay or nay?
So on Hotfix, when we do these longer showcases, we like to take breaks. Not just for ourselves, but encourage the audience to do the same. Get up, stretch, refill your water, take care of yourselves. I like to encourage some healthy behavior. So we're going to take a few minutes here. While we're on break, you'll see some rotational ads that are advertising for the other shows that we have on Hotfix. So if you're interested in some of the other shows, you can see what times they're on through that. And of course, we would very much appreciate it if you would consider subscribing, as Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits. But we'll be back in just a few minutes with the rest of this Crash Team Racing tutorial with Hypnoshark. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Hello everyone and welcome back from that break. We hope everyone got an opportunity to get up, stretch, refill water if you needed it. We're going to be going back into the tutorial here in a moment. But as a quick reminder, if you're liking what you see tonight, Hotfix is an ongoing series here on Games Done Quick, where we showcase speedruns, speedrun adjacent content, and just try to, show off cool stuff pretty much every night of the week. So if you're interested in seeing what Hotfix has to offer, you can go to gamesdonequick.com/hotfix. There's a schedule there, shows everything for the month of May, and there's a form in the bottom left that you can fill out if you have a game you'd like to see on Hotfix. You can let us know about it, and we'll potentially see about getting it on one of our shows. But we're going to continue onwards with this Crash Team Racing tutorial. For people who are not familiar, this is part of Speed Seasons, which is a series of ongoing get-yourself speedrunning races, and in just under 2 weeks there's going to be a race of Crash Team Racing All Cups here on our channel. So if you'd like to participate in that, you can go to speedseasons.com, and there's a Discord there you can join and see the information for the upcoming race. Join in if you want, and we hope to see some people joining in for that. It'll be a lot of fun. But HypnoShark, welcome back. Hope you had a good break. Why don't we get right back into it?
Thank you. So, if you weren't here before that break, we just got done with the first 8 tracks of the route that goes in the order of easy to hard. So we just got done with Super Speedway. We're going to go into Mystery Caves now. This is a track, if you were here for it, is very similar to Ruse Tubes. Basically just like kind of a longer version in the sense that a lot of the techniques that you saw in that track are going to be used here. But yeah, this track so far out of the tracks that I've showed is the longest track. This is just shy of 2 minutes. And the cup that I'm going to show off now, this is called the Nitro Cup in the speedrun. These tracks are some of the longest in the game, specifically one of them, which also holds host to the hardest skip in the run. But ooh. Yeah. So Mystery Caves. Straight away, we have Turtle Cycles. Again, similarly to every other cycle in this game, these cycles are 100% consistent as long as you've entered the level for the first time. So, for example, here, if I hit restart, they won't be consistent, but it doesn't really matter. But they are consistent in the speedrun, which is very cool. So yeah, I should mention, because I mentioned it in Crash Cove, turning the camera backwards is faster here by like 3 frames. Sure.
Get those free frames.
Yeah, let's
Don't
go.
leave them on the floor.
Yeah. Like I literally just did, ironically. But yeah, so this first skip basically is a timing thing mixed with the double jump, where we're going to be hitting L1 and then mashing R1. And we're going to be using, if I just break here just to show you, there's a little lip in the ground just in front of me, as you can see. A little bit of an uphill here. We're going to be using that to propel ourselves over a lot of this off-road dirt, and then froggying out the rest of it until we get back on the track. This saves roughly 2 seconds. But again, it is not at all worth it if you don't have the reserve. So for example, if I just don't drift and I just have no speed, and I try doing it, it's like very slow. I guess it's still technically worth it, but like, it's not really what you'd want to see. You'd be much better off just keeping your reserves and going wide. But yeah, optimally, it would look something like this. This is actually the consistent turtle cycle. You get a propulsion, and then you froggy it out. And that's kind of the idea there, to skip over that section. So that saves like 2.5 seconds per lap, which adds up. But again, if you don't go for it, no worries. Now, this is what I was saying about how this track is kind of familiar, or similar, to Ruse Tubes, in the sense that there is one big downhill that we are going to exploit for one big SG, but hopefully we can carry for up to 15 seconds. It's around there, like 10-15 seconds. So yeah, we go off this downhill here, and we're just going to keep holding L1 and mashing R1, picking up this one fruit, and actually getting SGs off of all of these downhills as well. And optimally, you can keep this all the way until here, where you are forced to drift, because one of your reserves, because you haven't drifted for a long time because you've just been jumping, and secondly, because the uphill kind of kills your speed, so you are forced to end the speed ghost there. But optimally, this track can get kind of insane because the speed ghost can just makes or breaks the whole split basically in the speed run. So again, maintain the downhill speed. I should show actually, for the record, again, like I showed in Dingo Canyon, but in case you weren't there for it, jumping down downhills is very bad. Do not get confused between jumping slightly after a downhill when you're still preserving that momentum and jumping on a downhill, because jumping on a downhill will result in this ugly looking thing where you kind of go really slowly and you get no speed at all, and it's really sad. Whereas if you jump as you're exiting a downhill, you maintain that speed on flat ground, and that is what enables you to maintain the downhill momentum. So a big difference between jumping as you're exiting a downhill, which is what you want, and jumping on a downhill, which is absolutely awful and the worst thing ever. So yeah, something like this is what we want, because you start jumping just after the downhill, and then optimally you double jump off of every single one of these ramps, trying to maintain that speed ghoster. And then you end it here. And this ending is actually very simple. Just solid driving will do here. Just drifting off the turtles is fine. You don't have to do that section optimally at all. There isn't much time to be lost or gained on that section. Basically the whole track here, even though it isn't basically a 2-minute track, it comes down to that off-road shortcut there and this speed ghost here and how long you can keep it for. And that's kind of the track. You want to get that downhill there, like I just did. And optimally you can froggy up this uphill. And if you're lucky, and I don't think I can explain this really, if you're lucky you can catch some uphill pixels that give you speed. Because as I said earlier, some uphill pixels will kind of act like they're downhill and just give you a load of speed for no reason. That can happen, rarely does, but when it does, it's very cool. I would just recommend drifting up there though, and you just drifting up this section just for safety of keeping your speed and keeping your reserves high. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Mystery Caves. This off-road shortcut, again, pretty important, but if you don't feel comfortable with it, then just do this. Just go wide, and it's fine. It's a turn, so you're going to drift around it. You're keeping your reserves high, you're keeping your speed good. And yeah, everything is fine. And yeah. Luckily, thanks to the turbo pads at the beginning of this level, literally 1 second into the level, you should have turbo pad speed for the entirety of it, as long as you don't hit any walls. And everything's just fine. This is going to be like a 156 with going wide of the off-road shortcut on lap 3. So optimally, you can get like 152s there. Realistically, though, with a little bit of practice, you can get 39 laps consistently, and that is more than okay. Anything around 2 minutes is fine for that level. So yeah, that's basically it for Mystery Caves. Not too hard of a level. This is the first level with... This is definitely the hardest level so far, and one of the hardest tracks in the game, even though it doesn't really seem like it should be. Because in the adventure mode categories, this track is quite early. This is the 7th track in that run, I think. But here, depending on how you reset, obviously, depending on what cup you put first, this can be 2nd, or this can be like the 14th track, depending on how you want it to be. So, basically, I'm going to start off by showing you what you should do as a beginner. And then I'm going to introduce more and more shortcuts, because there are like 6 shortcuts in this 1 minute level. So this is what you should do when you start. This track is one of the main reasons why I recommend people who are starting off with the game start with Coco and Engine. These corners right here are something that you need to practice for a while to not hit the walls in, with Dingo and Tiny especially. They're hard with any character, but with Dingo and Tiny especially, because your cornering just isn't that good. And as you can see on the minimap, these turns are very narrow, and they are 90 degrees. And the routing of this section is 3 boosts, 2 boosts, and a jumping U-turn to catch that turbo pad. That's the idea. It's hard as hell. It's really hard. And everyone messes it up often. Like, it's just difficult. But that was quite smooth. And because I paused, I couldn't drift out of it. But you're supposed to drift off that turbo pad to keep that speed, basically.
Yeah, I remember this track was in the demo disc for this game. And not only was this a hard track in the demo, but I remember finding, like, oh, you can skip some stuff here. Like, just because it was one of the first tracks people had access to.
Yeah, it was on the Spyro 2 disc as well. If you put in the cheat code in Spyro 2.
Was it? Really?
Yeah, you could access this. And it was a little bit different, but a lot of the track is the same, yeah. Again, this is why I recommend when you're starting out, you just stay on the track and it's fine. There is pretty much one shortcut that you can very easily do even when you're starting out. If you have the speed to do it, hit R1, hit right, and it's not too hard. What makes that shortcut a lot easier, though, is U-turning. U-turning makes that shortcut practically free. You can have next to no speed and still make it just because you U-turned. Makes it a lot easier. I'll show the power of U-turning now. So, yeah, this is... Cortex, could you please die? Thank you. Don't know what he was doing there, but okay. Yeah, the power of U-turning really comes in handy both there, obviously. I'll talk about that grass shortcut later, but for now, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But yeah, I'm just going to U-turn here after jumping, and you're going to see how easily I make it. I mean, it's so simple when you know how to U-turn. That shortcut becomes very easy.
So is that like a really good place to practice U-turning then?
Yes. I would recommend there and the track that we haven't reached yet, but we'll talk about it when we get there, because that's another great one actually. But yeah, but that is perfect because it's an easy 4 or 5 second time save. It doesn't look like it saves that much. It only cuts off one corner, but it saves a lot, especially with a U-turn. And yeah, so that's that shortcut. So we'll talk about everything else because that's one of 18 shortcuts in this level. So this is an intended shortcut. As long as you have somewhat okay speed, you can just jump here and then jump here. Very easy, as long as you have the speed to do it. Also, a backup for this, which I do not recommend, but a good, the optimal way to make this shortcut is instead of going all the way off there and then U-turning, what you can do is you can jump onto the wall, and this wall is going to be seen a lot, but you can do something like this, and that puts you right next to the finish line. And that's the optimal way of doing that. I don't recommend that at all if you're just starting out. But yeah, and now I'll show you the grass shortcut and the ultra. So the grass shortcut is very hard with Dingo and Tiny because you don't really have the turn to make it. But again, you can just drift over the grass shortcut and it's still faster. So I would recommend just doing this. I'll show you what I mean. I would recommend doing something like this, where you hop into the grass but then just drift along it. And that's still fast. It's not optimal, but it's still good. And then the ultra, if you're just starting out, I'd recommend going this way, catching this turbo pad to make sure that your speed is good, jumping up here, and then going over here and jumping onto this wall and dropping down there. Optimally, you would U-turn at the line. I'll show you what this looks like optimally. And I'll also show you optimal grass. I do not recommend doing this at all if you're just starting out. Just stick to the first shortcut where you skip the last turn, and skip to the one where you just jump off the middle platform. This is what it looks like optimally, or semi-optimally. I'll try and get it, even though this is very hard. Again, a main reset point. And voila. If you U-turn and you go across the finish line without hitting the track in front of it, I'll actually try and show that off. It's a similar thing to Dragon Mines, where you don't get your lap to count. I'll try and show it off. Yeah, so there, I go back down to 6 because I didn't land in front of the finish line. But unlike Dragon Mines, where I'm just stuffed, I just can't make it, because the checkpoints are still activated from the lap before, I can actually just drop down here. And the game recognizes that, oh, you're still on this lap, and you did get to this part last time, so it's fine. But you know what? It's fine. And
You're just
you only
back in
lose,
first.
yeah, and you only lose like 10 seconds to making that mistake. So unlike Dragon Mines, it's not the end of the world because you can literally just fall down. If I try falling down now, the game's like, hey, you're on lap 3 now, not lap 2. What are you doing? So, yeah. Very interesting to see the checkpoint system. And by the way, that checkpoint system is going to be abused later. You will see what I mean. It's going to be destroyed. I didn't really talk about the grass shortcut optimally, so I'll go over that. And then we'll go over the fun tool-assisted stuff. So the grass shortcut, nice item. The grass shortcut is basically we're going to want to go at a very certain angle and then double jump and get a propulsion, aka sent forward with some height off of it. So as you can see, this grass has a lot of bumps in it. And these bumps are very useful to use your speed, I guess, to propel yourself. And this is where we want to be aiming. We want to hit it like here, because this is a very steep angle, especially here. This is very steep, and it's going to act as like a ramp to send us up. And this is, again, one of the main reasons I would recommend using Coco or Engine, because Coco and Engine's turn makes this a lot easier to turn this, like, do these 4 corners and then turn that sharp to get that angle. I'll show you what happens a lot of the time with Dingo and Tiny. You try to make it, but you're just too wide and you can't do it because your turn stat just isn't good enough. But with a very precise corner, you can actually hit that angle. It's very hard with Dingo and Tiny. A lot easier with Coco and Engine. Another reason why I recommend using Coco and Engine. If you're just starting out. And yeah, so let me try and hit it now. That's better. Yeah, so there you go. It's pretty hard to get. But if you do get it, it looks very, very cool. I actually ran out of reserves there. I barely made that jump, actually. But you saw how my exhaust kind of went white instead of like yellow. That was a sign that I lost my speed. But I was able to make the shortcut with a well-timed jump anyway. So, yeah, this grass shortcut is very difficult to do optimally, especially with Dingo and Tiny, but it is possible. And again, if you want to do this wall shortcut here, which is very cool looking, but you've like just started out with the game, I would recommend, instead of doing what I'm doing here, I'd recommend just doing this. This is how I started out. This is how a lot of people start out, and it's a good way to do it. This is an alternative strat. You can just drift across here. Instead of doing that podium shortcut, just do this, and it makes it a lot easier to do this. And by this time, because you've gone around that corner, you have a lot of speed built up, a lot of boosts built up, so you don't have to worry about losing reserves. And it just makes it a lot more manageable. And it is still fast to go around that like platform jump and still do this. This is still fast. So yeah, and that's Papu's Pyramid. Is what I would say if I wasn't an idiot and decided to implement something that I shouldn't have.
Oh no.
Like a month ago. So this has been known for like 5 years, and an RTA viable setup was found 2 years ago, but only I lacked the brain cells to decide to add it. And basically it's going to rely on us getting a mask, which is the item I talked about earlier. But for that, I need to be in 2nd to 8th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around and I'm going to wait till I get a mask. This is RNG. This is just RNG, and this is another reason why this shouldn't be done. Yeah, so we're going to wait till I get a mask, and then I'm going to talk about why this is dumb. Okay. So the wall shortcut that I was just talking about, where you drop down and you land in front of the finish line, you U-turn and you cross the line, and the game's like, oh, you did a lap, congrats, and it's a cool shortcut and everything. This is slightly different because we're going to be doing that, but we're going to be doing that without doing any of the lap, and we're going to skip all the key checkpoints. Basically, if I land in this area from that wall there, the game will realize what I've done and respawn me and tell me, you know, what are you doing? Why are you trying to do this? You're an idiot. But if I land here, for some reason, the game is like, oh, you did it. Congrats. And it gives you the lap. Now, this sounds easy, but you need to get the speed to somehow make it from that wall over this section to here. And that is where the mask comes in, because the mask gives you a little bit of speed. And that doesn't even begin to even scratch the surface of why this is hard, because you're Dingo and Tiny, your turn stat is bad. So you need to do a very precise turn to even get a good enough line to even try to make it. You need to U-turn at the right time. You need to get a good landing to keep the speed, and then you need a good jump off the wall, and then you need to land in the right place, and then you need to not fall off. It's stupid. So I'm going to try it, and yeah, let's see if I get it. Okay, that is not enough speed. As you can see, I'm falling way short of it, and I get respawned, because the game is like, why are you trying this? But yeah, it's very difficult. I literally only go for it if a run is dead and I'm like, either I'm getting this and I'm on like incredible pace, or the run's dead and I move on with my life. I'll try it again. I'll try it like a couple times just because it'd be very cool to show it off. Considering it was like a time trial only strat for a very, very long time. Okay, here we go. Let's try it.
I was gonna say, if the game gives you a mask, that is.
Yeah, right? That was closer. I'll give it 2 more goes, why not? But, yeah, so don't do this ever, unless you're dumb, like me. I'm very dumb. No, can we talk about what just happened there? Okay. Engine just rammed me off. Alright, that was cool.
That's almost Coco, right?
Yeah, I mean, Coco was right behind him, so I'm sure she would have obliged. Nice 8th place TNT there. I should talk about the item balancing, actually. Hold on. I'll try this, then I'll talk about that. Probably not enough speed. Oh! Okay, so that's it. I got it. Yeehaw. That's the Tiziano. Shoutouts to Tiziano. He's the guy that found this. That is the shortcut. I am surprised I got that 3rd try, to say the least. Yeah, and that's it. And optimally, if you get a mask like 1st try and then make it, you save like anywhere from 10 to 12 seconds. But don't do it. Just don't.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Just don't do it, you know?
Seems extremely high risk.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of tracks later on in the run, it's not like this is a guaranteed world record if you get it either. Far from it, my goodness. So, yeah. Yeah, not at all worth it at all. But very cool to Hail Mary a run to it. Very cool. So, okay. This I said yesterday that this was the hardest track without an unintended shortcut, and I completely stick by that. Cortex Castle is really difficult, especially with Dingo and Tiny. This cup, actually, the Nitro Cup, has 3 out of the 4 levels, which is like they're the main reasons why, pretty much. For a long time, we thought Coco and Engine were optimal over Dingo and Tiny, because these 3 levels are incredibly hard to do with this character and way easier and pretty much the same speed ish. That's not really the case optimally, but at a beginner level, like this level is so much faster with Coco and Engine because you can just do whatever and it's faster, because you have to do very precise things with Dingo and Tiny to even make this anywhere close to worth it to be this character. So as you can see by the minimap, a lot of 90-degree turns, and that is Dingo and Tiny's like weak spot basically. So I would recommend here, and this is just very precise, you're going to want to do 1 boost off the ramp and then land, do 2 boosts, and then drift the other way. You're going to want to go left of this fork in the road, by the way. So implying that you're going left, you're going to do a drift right, end the boost just in time to jump on the ramp and shift your momentum right. This is very advanced, and this is why I would recommend playing as Coco and Engine, because with Coco and Engine you can just drift and your turn is fine and you just make it. But with Dingo and Tiny, you need to do something that looks a bit like this. So again, drift once, and then twice, and then we're going to drift the wrong way, and then we're going to shift our momentum right. Just like that. And that's the idea. Very hard, not easy at all. And if you even slightly deviate from that plan, there is no backup with Dingo. There is no like, oh, I messed it up, but I can do this. It's this, or you just lose your reserves, and you lose like 3 seconds, and it is what it is. So very difficult, but again, just to show it off, 1, and then 2 here, drift right, shift your momentum right, and then do a drift here, and then the track continues. This section here, again, this is going to be another example of us shifting our momentum with a jump on a ramp. We're going to do 2 boosts around this corner, and then 1 boost to the left, and again shift our momentum to the right. There's a reason why I haven't really talked about mini turbo management really in any other track besides this one, because it really isn't that important for learning the game and learning the tracks that I've talked about so far. But with Dingo and Tiny on Cortex Castle, there is only really one route that works for certain corners, and if you deviate in any way, it's just over. So again, 2 boosts to the right, 1 boost to the left, and then shift your momentum to the right. So like this, 2 boosts right, 1 boost left, shift your momentum, and then you make it. That turn is extremely hard, and then you get a break for about 10 seconds where you can just kind of drift. Then this section, you want to drop down with 2 boosts, and then cut the corner, because, fun fact again, if you deviate from this route, you're just going to hit a wall, because if you go wide here, you'd think on any other track, I've been telling you to go wide and stay in the center of the road this entire time. But if you go wide here, then you're just going to be in the wall, because this turn, if you look at the minimap, it's so jarring how you are basically doing a 90-degree turn one way and then instantly going the other way. But you need to cut the corner, otherwise your turning is not going to make it. So again, 2 boosts to the right here. I did 1 because the pause screwed me over. But then you have to jump over that corner. There is no alternative, realistically. Unless you want the worst line ever, and maybe you might somehow not hit the corner. But again, this is why I recommend playing as Engine and Coco, because you don't have to worry about any of this. You can literally just play and it's fine.
Is that a series that's easier if you're playing words are hard, Coco or Engine?
What is this track easier?
That series of turns you're talking about.
That series of turn, yes, because Coco's turn kind of makes up for, like, if you're just starting out, Coco's turn can kind of aid you with this, because any 90-degree turn or any 180-degree turn, I'll actually show it off. So for example, if I mess up with Dingo here, and let's say I drift right but I don't shift my momentum in time, look how wide I go. There's no way I make this. I'm just in the wall. So it's like, with Coco, actually, I'll change character and show it off. With Coco, I could do that and I would live. I would be absolutely fine and I would move on. Because the turn stat is just better, and even though I'm going slightly slower, I'm able to just make it because my character is easier to play. So I'll just show it off. Again, it's the same concept, 1 and then 2, and then let's say I mess up. I'm like, oh no, I'm going wide. I just make it, and it's fine. So that's kind of, that showcases the differences between the two characters and why Dingo is faster because of the speed stat, but Dingo is not at all faster if you don't know how to play him. And that's why I recommend starting off with Coco and Engine, because yeah, it's just very difficult. So it's funny actually, probably the easiest part of this track is the last bit, which is probably the flashiest bit of the track. Again, shifting the momentum there and making that. This is a tech that I covered when I was talking about the game mechanics. But this is the first track that, in this route at least, that we see have it, and this is called Ultimate Sacred Fire. Don't ask me why it's called that. I think the techs were named by a bunch of 7-year-olds. I'm not a 7-year-old. I don't quite understand why it's called that. But basically, going off this turbo pad and not jumping is going to basically crush our reserves down into speed. And however many reserves we have, similarly to normally, dictates how long we are able to keep the speed for. However, these turbo pads are very special, and if we don't jump off them, we get an insane amount of speed, as you will see here. This, combined with the Froggy and the U-turn to maintain the same speed, can be very powerful and completely bypasses Dingo's bad turn stat. Because obviously, as we've been talking about, jumping by holding L1 and mashing R1 maintains the speed that we currently have, and by getting USF, which is the fastest speed that you can acquire in this game, you can keep that speed for longer. By the way, for the record, this is an absolutely unintended thing. The game designers, I'm pretty sure, did not intend for USFing to be a thing, but it is only a thing in 4 tracks in the entire game, and 3 of them are in this run. So yeah, you're going to see it a little bit more. But yeah, so I'll get to that point again. To boost there and then shift your momentum and cut the corner like that. And then this intended shortcut here, and then this USF where I didn't jump off the ramp. And then I'm able to Froggy and just keep our reserves. Again, as I mentioned, like right at the start of this, very important to not boost whilst in that phase, because if you boost, and I'll showcase that again, if you boost whilst USFing, you cut the USF short, which is the whole reason why you can't keep it forever. Because if you could boost and it like would stay with you, then you could up your reserves again and you could keep that state forever. But as you can't boost, it is destined to run out eventually, because your reserves will eventually die. So for example, if I boost like here, it runs out and I go slow. I was already going slower before I hit the wall, but it does just go a lot slower. So yeah, but This is a track that harps back to the phrase that I used earlier, where there is really no substitute for the amount of hours you've put into a game. This track is just all feel and sticking to the route, and if you're not comfortable with it, then please play Coco and Engine. It's what I recommend to every person that's starting out. And yeah, this track is by far the hardest track with no unintended shortcuts. It's very difficult. And, yeah, it's the track that you'll probably find yourself hating when you start out. So, but yeah, that's the track anyway. Yeah, very complex track. Okay.
It definitely
Next
looks like
track.
one of those tracks where play it safe because any mistakes are just going to send you way off the rails.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Any deviation from like the optimal play is like, oh, you lost 5 seconds, and it's like, oh, cool, man. Okay, this track is not only the longest track in the game, but also has the hardest shortcut in the game that makes and breaks runs at will. This is also the only other skip in the run, unlike or similarly to Tiger Temple, sorry, that has an RNG shortcut, or is based on some form of RNG. And yeah, so the core track is very similar to Cortex Castle in the sense that if you deviate from certain strats at certain areas, you are going to fail. Basically, this cup demands you to either play Coco and Engine or know everything, because and by the way, this was the main reason, like these 3 tracks in a row, Papu's Pyramid, Cortex Castle, Tiny Arena, these 3 tracks were the main reason why for many years we thought Coco and Engine were optimal, because these tracks existed and Dingo just couldn't play them. So 2 things to take note of, and by the way, don't do this shortcut when you're starting out. I know it saves a lot, just don't do it, because it's very RNG based, and if you get a PB with this, you're going to be kicking yourself, because then you're going to have to reset over this, and yeah, it's hard. So yeah, basically, in certain situations here, and I'll point them out when they happen, you're going to need to do an exact thing with Dingo. Again, with Coco and Engine, you can kind of just do whatever you want and it will be fine. Just, drift, keep your reserves, and play center of the road, fundamentally sound. Don't hit any walls, and it's fine. But with Dingo and Tiny, because your turning is bad, you're going to want to go wide on certain areas so you can cut in. And I'll explain what I mean by that. It's kind of a actual unironic racing term, I guess, in like real life racing. But so here, for example, if I go really tight on this turn, I'm not going to be able to make it, because Dingo and Tiny's turn just cannot do this at all. As you will see here, I can't make this. Like, the wall is just there and I'm going to hit it if I go tight. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go slightly wide and then cut into the turn. So for example, we're going to start out here and then cut in, and that makes it a lot easier. Now from here, again, there is a very tight turn, as you can see on the mini map coming up. So we're going to jump off this ramp to the left and then U-turn back on ourselves and then try and catch the turbo pad instantly. The reason why this U-turn doesn't really lose our speed is because of the turbo pad straight after getting us instantly back up to speed. So you'll see this here, where I kind of U-turn and then instantly catch that turbo pad. I kind of messed up because I paused, but it's fine. And then this section, you just want to, play solid, middle of the road. Now this, again, as you can see by the minimap, these are S-turns. These are turns that kind of go back on themselves at every point. And with Dingo and Tiny, again, this was another reason why we figured that they're not optimal back in the day, because you you can't really make these, because if you just try and drift around them, you just go really wide, and even with going wide, you're still going to hit the wall. So that's obviously just not good at all. So what we're going to do here, and again, this is why I would not advise you playing as Dingo and Tiny straight away, because of these tracks. What you're going to do is you're going to sacrifice your speed in exchange for tight lines. So for example, we're going to do 1, 2, 3 boosts, and then we're going to U-turn and Froggy at the same time and take really tight lines, but sacrifice the speed on this section. But believe it or not, it is worth it, because that section is awful with Dingo and Tiny. So yeah, that's what we're going to do there. And another example of it is here on this turn. We're going to take a really tight line, but sacrifice our speed again. And another example of it here. So basically, in this track, it's faster to sacrifice all of your speed and just go for like really tight lines with Dingo and Tiny over, you know, keeping your reserves and playing fundamentally sound CTR, which is different to what I've been telling you this entire time, but it just shows how different this track is, I suppose. So, okay, I haven't even gone into the skip yet. Well. Okay, so this entire time, you're going to want to pay attention to which item you have. The items that we're going to want is a TNT, or more specifically a Nitro, when you get 10-1. The reason why we want this is because we are going to place a Nitro up against a wall, and we are going to hit the Nitro in a very specific way to launch ourselves over a wall and save roughly 45 seconds. Again, do not go for this if you are just starting out, because you will force yourself to reset over this because it saves so much, and if you get it, then you'll be ruining the day you went for this, because you'll have to reset over it constantly because it saves so much. So again, don't go for this if you're just starting out. So we're going to drive up to this wall here, and we're going to place the Nitro at a slight angle, and I'll talk about the angle and its importance in depth now. So I've placed the Nitro down, and it looks like this. It can look slightly different. I might actually get items by the AI here, but oh well. Basically, what we're looking for is the depth of the wall compared to the Nitro. So you see how the wall has a little bit of like a dip in it? Like just above the Nitro right now. What we want to do is we want to hit the Nitro on a spot where it's far enough away from the wall, but it doesn't get stuck underneath this little lip in the wall here, but not close enough to the wall close enough to the wall where we are actually able to still go up it. So it's kind of a balancing act. I would say with this Nitro, I kind of want to hit it on the depth of where the R is on the word Nitro. This takes a lot of learning and timing, and there are even some examples of when you do it quote unquote right and it still can sometimes not work just because it's very finicky. So I'm going to try it now, and I'm going to hit it like about like center right, like again like on the R-ish, around there, and I'm going to try hit it there because I think that's going to give me the best possible chance with this exact Nitro setup. So I'm going to try it. Yeah, I was close. So basically the reason why that didn't make it is because I was too far away when I hit the Nitro. If you get stuck underneath the ridge, it's because you were too close to the wall when you hit it. And if you get right to the top of the wall and you don't make it, then it's because you were too far away from the wall when you hit it. Again, it's so precise that you can kind of think that you're going to get it and then not get it. And that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But again, if you do get it, you skip like practically an entire lap, and yeah, it's lovely. In any percent no major glitches, which is the main category for this game, and in all cups technically optimally, you want to do this twice, because the first lap is going to be used to just drive around like you normally would. And this is what I recommend you do for all 3 laps, by the way, if you're just starting out. I absolutely recommend you just do this for 3 laps, and that's perfectly fine. But if you wish to do this, which again I do not recommend, then you need to do it twice optimally. So again, the first lap is used to basically trick the game into activating all the checkpoints, because you've practically nearly done a lap. I mean, the finish line is right there. So all the checkpoints of all the places on the track are ticked off because you've gone past them. Nice missile. That's going to hit me. Okay, no, it isn't. I was so scared. So again, I place the nitro down. I have a look at it. I think where I want to hit it, and then I go for it. Too far left, unfortunately. Basically, again, that failed because I was too close to the wall when I hit the nitro, so I got stuck underneath a little ridge in the wall. That was quite unlucky. But yeah, so it's kind of a balancing act between, like, if you can get it, if you can't get it. And again, you can see why I was so happy to get this at least once yesterday, because it's very hard. So yeah, I'll go for it a couple more times, but the core of this skip is that you need to pull a nitro, and then you place the nitro against the wall. You think of where you want to hit it by like looking at the nitro and just thinking about it, and then you try your best to execute and hit it where you want to hit it, which is honestly very hard. Like, it's quite hard to hit the nitro exactly where you want to hit it every time. But if you're able to do that, then your success rate should be like pretty reasonable. But I mean, again, I was doing this today on my stream, and I did like 3 hours of attempts, and I got 1 run going past this level. So that just says a lot about how difficult it is. So again, I'll just try it. Too close to the wall. I'll try it one more time and then we'll move on. But yeah, I think it says a lot about this skip, but I failed it all 3 times here. So unlucky, but hopefully we can get it this time and then we'll move on. But yeah, if I don't get it this time, you can always go back and watch yesterday's VOD. I got it in that run, so there is video evidence of me getting it. I swear I'm good at this game, please believe me. But yeah, hopefully I can get it here, and yeah, we'll see. But worth mentioning again that if me failing it 3 times isn't evidence enough, please don't try this if you're just starting out with the game. Not worth it in the slightest. Yeah, just not at all worth it. So yeah, we'll try this one more time. Hopefully I can get it, but if not, no worries. Let's see though. Alright, let's concentrate here. I actually really like that nitro placement. Dang. Oh well. So yeah, again, I was too close to the nitro when I hit it there, unfortunately. So that's a shame. But yeah, again, I got it. I got it yesterday, so you can go back in the VOD and watch that if you want to see that trick done, or you can check any of the world records pretty much on speedrun.com. They will all have it. But yeah, okay. So the next track and the beginning of the final cup is Polar Pass. This, in my opinion, has the second hardest shortcut in the game, the hardest being that one that we've just done. So yeah, hopefully I can show this off a little bit better than that one. But yeah, we'll see. So first things first, I'll mention the seal cycles, as there was a seal just right in front of us there. Basically this seal is consistent like every other cycle. It goes for most cycles in this game. But all of these seals are consistent. I'm pretty sure there's 4 seals in this level, and they are all consistent. So nothing to worry about there. That and the seals are all in places where you can kind of get a good look at them. Maybe except the second one, but the second one you can completely avoid, as I'll bring up and mention later. But yeah, so this level starts, and I'll just, similarly to how I showed Papu's Pyramid, I'll kind of show how to play this when you're just starting out. So here's what I would do. I would simply play this section. You can skip this section, but I would just do this and then go on with the level normally. Just play solid CTR, middle of the road stuff. You know, don't worry too much about tight lines. That shortcut is intended, obviously, and it's very easy. If you have any kind of speed, you can just jump at the apex and make that. And you can just jump off this ramp here. And yeah, that got me like a 52 lap. Yeah, and that only loses, 8 seconds to doing one of the shortcuts. And it loses probably 2 seconds to anything else. So yeah, besides the shortcut I'm going to show off and the 2 variants of the shortcut, that's completely fine, and you can you can do that, and it's absolutely fine for a person learning the game. So I'll show off the shortcut now. What I would recommend is turning around at this turbo pad here that's coming up. And then you see the wall on the right. That's what we're going to be using to do the shortcut. Basically, we're going to jump over the lake to our right, and that saves roughly 6 seconds. So we're going to turn around at the turbo pad. I'm going to do this by holding left and mashing R1 to do 3 jumps that will land us on the turbo pad, and then we're going to drift back and jump over the wall, or jump onto the wall and using the wall to propel us over more. Saying that better. So there we go. There we go. And that's how it should look. Again, when you land, you want to do a U-turn, because I'll try and show you what it looks like if you don't do a U-turn. This is actually worth learning if you are confident with other skips in the run. We're not quite to one of the skips that I'd really recommend learning. But this is probably the 5th or 6th skip I'd recommend learning. Basically, if you get anywhere around a 40-minute time, a 35-minute time, I'd recommend learning this, is kind of what I'd say. Yeah, so the idea is that you do this turnaround and then do 1 boost and then make it. If you don't U-turn, you can't make it with Dingo. I'm pretty sure you can make it with Coco without a U-turn. But this is why if you're going to play as Dingo and Tiny, you need to know how to U-turn, because your turning just can't make up for everything. So upon landing, you do need to U-turn with Dingo and Tiny. And I'll show that skip again. It's simply 3 hops to do the turnaround while holding a direction. You can also hold right, I suppose. I hold left, but you can also hold right. Yeah, you can hold right to do it as well. And then you simply make it. If you want, if you want, what you can do is, instead of doing that quick turnaround, you can take your time with the turnaround. But I might actually fail it whilst playing it safe, because I'm not very used to waiting at this turbo pad. But if you want, you can do something like this, where you hold square to not get turboed by the turbo pad, and then turn around slowly, and then do it, if you wish. That's probably a lot safer. However, I would look out for the lap 1 AI, because if you do that, the AI might actually get in your way and drive into you as you're driving the wrong way to do the shortcut. So I would only do that on lap 2 and 3. if you want to play it safe, just don't go for the shortcut on lap 1 at all, and then go for a lap 2 and 3, because you won't have to worry about the AI, because hopefully you'll be a certain amount ahead of them by that point. So that was the first variant of that shortcut. By the way, I should just mention, this wall shortcut, it's incredibly easy, but if you want to be optimal, there is a crack in the wall here. You can just jump through the crack, and that's optimal. And that, ideally, I guess, makes it easier because you don't have to jump as high. So both optimal and easier if like the seal cycles line up to allow you to take that line. But okay, so we've talked about the easier variant of the shortcut, which, by the way, is still hard for the record. But now we're going to talk about the dumb thing that you shouldn't go for. So, basically, I mentioned U-turning earlier. If you wish to do this, it saves 2.5 to 3 seconds per lap. I would say nearer 2.5. But what you're going to do is you're going to skip the turnaround of the turbo pad, and you're just going to go straight for the wall. This trick is called boomerang because you kind of go in a boomerang-like arc. You kind of turn back on yourself. And yeah, we're going to U-turn at the wall and mash R1 to hopefully get a buffered jump off of the wall. But it's very hard, and I can see myself messing this up. So this is, again, a pretty big run killer. Okay, I got it. Nice. So that's kind of the idea. You U-turn, and then you mash R1, and if you're on the right part on the wall, then you can make it, and it looks something like that. And you U-turn upon landing, just like the easier variant of the shortcut, and there you go. So there are different parts on the wall that work for both boomerang and the easier variant of the boomerang. But the one that I would recommend, if I'll stop at the wall when I next reach it. The one that I would recommend is this part on the wall that I am lined up with here. Just before the highest point on the wall, I would recommend somewhere around here. Because this very top part of the wall, you see how it kind of slopes down? Like away from you? This part of the wall will not give you a jump, because if you're coming at it from this angle here, you can see that it's kind of sloping away from you. And because of that, it's not going to give you as much height. So just before the tip is kind of what you want. It's what I would recommend. Obviously, sometimes you're just going to fail it, and that's life. But I'd recommend somewhere around there. And yeah, it gives you a lovely big jump. And yeah, it's good. But besides that, again, if you're just starting out with the run, I would 100% recommend not doing this. And I would recommend instead still learning how to U-turn so you can do this part well. But what I would do here is ignore this shortcut for a little bit, not do it, maybe get an SG here, the speed ghost here, which is gotten from hitting that downhill and then maintaining that speed by frogging. The reason why you want to learn how to U-turn is because this turn is still kind of sharp with Dingo and Tiny. So if you U-turn this, you can just take this really tight and just do something like that. Ideally, you hit the turbo pad so you keep the speed. But if you don't, it's still faster, you know, it's fine. And as long as you do 3 mini turbos in a row at some point, you don't even need to, but you'll easily have enough speed to make the shortcut. And just to, you know, prove that this shortcut isn't too hard. Hello AI. I'm going the slowest I can go, and I still made it. So yeah,
wow.
that shortcut is not too hard. It's not too hard at all. The last thing I'll show off is the ramp skip. Basically, again, I do not recommend doing this. This doesn't save much at all. It saves like 1 second to 1.5 seconds per lap. Basically, there's a big ramp at the end of this level, which leads to the ending. but you can just ignore it and go to the left and jump off this little ridge here, and you can kind of cut the corner a little bit. Wouldn't recommend if you're starting out, but it's a 3 second, second and a half. You just jump, and that's it, as long as you have the speed to do it. So yeah, that's it for Polar Pass. Pretty hard level. I would say one of the main reset points if you wish to start with this cup. This is now the Crash Cup. Yeah, but if you want to start with this cup, this is what you'd be resetting over. You'd probably be resetting over that shortcut that I showed you. So yeah, and fun fact, that's actually what we used to reset over until Tiny Arena was found. The Nitro skip by Natty. So that was found like last year, like June, July time. So in the grand scheme of CTR being released in 1999, that it's barely been around like any time at all. So
it was the Tiny Arena skip that was found last year, or?
Yeah, Tiny Arena skip was found last year, the one with the Nitro.
Wow.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest developments in the speedrun, like besides like playing as Dingo instead of Coco and Engines. Yeah, big find. But okay, so we have 3 tracks left. 2 tracks are very complex, and then the last track is not hard at all. The first track is Engine Labs. This and the next track both have the USF mechanic, Ultimate Sacred Fire. It's what happens when you go off a ramp but don't jump, and your reserves, aka the amount of times you've boosted, gets crushed into a short burst of speed. And however many times you've boosted, you will keep that speed for, basically. So yeah, the idea here is to get 10-1 per through as soon as possible from these 2 crates, the one that I just hit and this one here, and then not jumping off this ramp. This is the USF pad in this level, and you never want to jump off this, ever. And the reason being is you get this speed. And the moment that you start boosting, aka the moment that you hit this blue tunnel here, you lose it. So that's why that pad's important, because that will also be used later on. We actually hit that turbo pad twice in this level, and you'll see why later. But these barrel cycles are the least important thing in the world. I literally have no knowledge of them because you just ignore them. You literally just ignore them. You don't care about them. The turbo pads in the middle don't mean anything. Doesn't matter. This section here is another reason why I recommend playing as Coco and Engine, because again, if you look at the minimap in the bottom right, and you look at the bottom right of the minimap, which is where we are, these turns are incredibly tight and are made very easy and comfortable by playing as Coco and Engine. So again, the only strat for Dingo, besides going really wide like that, is something that I guess I can show off now. That was the less optimal thing to do. Just going really wide and drifting 3 times and kind of hoping that you don't go wide enough to hit the wall. Yeah. So you have that. And then you have the strat that I'm going to show you here. One thing I didn't mention before, this blue tunnel is on a slight downhill. So coming out of it, you can actually get a speed ghost, which is very cool. And because you came out of the blue tunnel, as long as you've drifted in it a couple times, you'll have loads of reserves because you're boosting all the time in there. This is the optimal strat here. We're going to drift once, do a quite short boost, and then jump and then drift again and jump. You'll see. It's quite hard to describe, but something like this is good. And now this. So the game clearly wants you to jump off that turbo pad to the left. It is obviously there because that's what the game wants you to do. However, because we have all this speed built up, and that turbo pad isn't a USF pad, we're going to actually use the turbo pad that was used earlier in the level and get another USF here. And this, as you can see, we can literally jump over holes, take lines really tight, and just go incredibly fast. And this is one of the reasons why this is a fan favorite, I think, this level, because you get to keep USF for a really, really, really long time. And it's such a cool technique that, you know, you just love to see it. So, again, a lot of this level, pretty much this entire level, is based around boosting to get your reserves high, so that when you get to the USF pad, you can make full use of it. So a lot of this is just based on boosting a lot, drifting a lot. And again, similarly to Cortex Castle, if you drift at any point after getting this, you will instantly lose USF. So I'll show that off actually. If you boost at any point. So as you can see, I have USF, everything is great. But if I jump off this ramp really high and get a landing boost, I lose it and I start going slow again, which is obviously not what we want. So it's very important to not boost ever when you're in that state. And again, that's another reason why Coco and Engine is very useful in this level, because when you're going at that speed, it can be kind of hard to control a character that is going really fast and has a complete lack of turn. But with Coco and Engine, you kind of have a little bit more leniency. So going at that speed is a lot more controllable because you have more turn to play with, basically. Because, for example, if I don't drift here and I just try to turn, it can be very scary, and you can see that happening. So again, you need to kind of know what you're doing with the character. And again, another reason why I would highly recommend playing as Coco and Engine. Highly recommend. But again, just to run through it, you get the 2 Wumpa crate at the start. If the AI actually beat you to this Wumpa crate, now would be a perfect time for them to get an insane star boost and just beat me to it. Never mind. You literally just take the inside line and you get the Wumpa later. I'll show you what I mean by this. You still want to get this Wumpa because it's there, and why wouldn't you want it? And then you play the rest of the track as we have been, but then when you get the USF, you can actually go wide for a Wumpa. And obviously 10 Wumpa is what we want. 9 works, but 10 is, fine too. And and this is what you'll do. Instead of jumping over that hole, which you saw me do optimally to get a tighter line, you will just go this way. Which, to be honest, you could just do just to play it safe. Because jumping over that hole could be a little bit scary. But I promise you it's actually easier than it looks. Because the USF speed is so insane. I think I've only ever messed up jumping over that hole a couple times. It's not too bad. So, but yeah, so, and then I guess I'll show off, or try to show off, what a good lap will look like, one optimal lap will look like here. Try my best to do it anyway. So optimally, you get the USF, you jump over this hole, you take a tight line here, you jump over this, and then here, because Dingo's turn is bad, Coco and Engine can actually keep the USF going. But because your Dingo and your turn is bad, what you're going to do is you're going to cut the USF short and start U-turn froggying to try and maintain as much of that speed as possible for as long as you can. And then combine it again into another USF, and then we go again. So that's kind of the idea. The core of this track is completely based around the USF, and boosting to get that USF as good as you can is just everything in this level. Like, all of these boosts just serve the USF and how long you're able to keep it for. If you're not able to keep it for too long, just start froggying, because as we've talked about, froggying maintains your speed for as long as possible. So if you're fearing that your USF is going to run out because you didn't keep many reserves, just start froggying and you'll keep it for a little bit longer. But yeah, so that's Engine Labs. That is the second to last level. That has USF in it. We have 2 tracks left. This is probably the hardest level maybe in the Crash Cup, which is probably the hardest cup if Tiny Arena shortcut didn't exist. So if you're not doing actually, I should mention this. If you're not doing Tiny Arena, like the Tiny Arena skip, which please don't do it if you're starting out, I would recommend starting with Crash Cup because it is the hardest cup. If you are doing Tiny Arena skip, then start with this cup because you want Tiny Arena earlier so you can reset and cry. So that's kind of the idea.
That's coming from a place of experience, it sounds like.
Yeah, just about. But yeah, so okay. Hot Air Skyway, I would say the hardest track in what you should be doing first, the first cup. The recommended route I would give, just for the record, is Crash Cup, Nitro Cup, Crystal Cup, Wumpa Cup. So basically just backwards from how I've showed you here is how I do it, because that's kind of going from hardest to easiest, so you can reset over the hard stuff. But oh, I should mention, oh my gosh, you can turn the camera backwards and save 3 frames again. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, how amazing. Only in Crash Cove Mystery Caves and Hot Air Skyway can you do that. Makes absolutely no sense. Don't know why it's a thing, but yeah, this saves 3 frames at the start. Go team. So there are, again, 9 shortcuts on offer here. 3 per lap. I will show you what you should be doing as a beginner who's just learning the game first, and then I'll show off the 2 shortcuts that you shouldn't do until you're a little bit more experienced. So you want to just go down the spiral, building up reserves, because this is the last level in this run, but it's going to have a USF pad, and it's going to have it here. So you're going to not jump, and you're just going to keep this for as long as possible until you reach here. And here, you're going to turn around. And the way you turn around is with U-turning, and that is down, square, and a direction, either left or right, whatever way you want to go. And this shortcut saves 15 seconds per lap, so it saves 45 seconds overall, and it is one of the easiest shortcuts in the game, so I thoroughly recommend learning it. It's not that easy if you're trying to do it optimally, like really fast. But if you're just trying to do it, you don't even need to know how to U-turn. Literally just drive backwards and jump. And that is it. The only reason I didn't make it is because I had no speed. But it's one of the easiest shortcuts in the game, period. It's so easy. So again, if you know how to U-turn, which again, in case you missed it, down, direction, and square, which I thoroughly recommend learning, especially if you're playing Dingo and Tiny. You've seen how useful it is in this run. It's just 3 inputs. It isn't too difficult. So again, just to show it off, I would do like 1 drift here and then U-turn, and that's it. That's literally it. And you see how much of the mini-map you cut out. I mean, you cut out like where the AI are going all the way around there. It's just insane how much you cut out with that skill. And again, you don't even need like to know how to U-turn, or you literally don't need to know how to U-turn. You can just turn around really slowly and just jump over, and it's fine. All you need to do realistically is 1 drift input, and that's it. So, for example, if I was going to do this like very kind of lethargically, I guess, just to show off how to do this. And again, I hit a wall, so my USF ran out really fast, so I'm just frogging to keep it. You can literally turn around like this, just do 1 drift, and then do this, and then just like do something like that. Wow, okay, I fell back down again. But you can do something like that, minus the falling down again part, like this, and then just turn into the wall or something, and that's fine. That still saves like 13 seconds or something. It's insane. So I would say learn this before even doing your first run of the game. Like, just jump into like arcade mode or time trial mode and just do this. Not very difficult at all, and it's a great way to implement U-turning. And yeah, So that's why I would recommend. So the reason why I said earlier that 3 tracks have USF, but it's only really useful on 2, is because there is a skip to skip this spiral section here. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to drive to the top of the spiral, because I guess I'll explain the checkpoint system in this game. Basically, what the checkpoint system is the further you drive in a track, the more the game loads of the track ahead of you. So, for example, I'll just show this, because this is a really good example. This is the shortcut, by the way. Let's say I drive to the top of the spiral, I turn around, and I do this jump here. But the game respawns me, because it hasn't loaded that much of the track yet. However, if I drive all the way to the top of the spiral, around here, now I turn around. Oops, you can skip that turn by, I'll show that off actually. You can skip that turn by jumping like that. If I do this skip now, it's going to work, because the game has loaded that part of the track in. This is a concept that is used in every single level in this game that has a skip like this, where you drive a certain part up the track and then turn around because you've loaded the part that you need to load to do a skip. And yeah, that's the concept of this skip. So again, turn around at the spiral. And again, this is another reason why I'd recommend playing as Dingo and, not Dingo and Tiny, but Coco and Engine, if you're new to the game. Because this turn here, as you can see, it's quite sharp. And let's say you have a bad line, and you're trying to make it with Dingo, there's no way you're going to make it. There's just no universe where you make that. So it's a lot tighter, whereas Coco and Engine may have made that line, honestly. Whereas if you go wide, a good visual cue I use is this Wumpa crate here. If you go through this Wumpa crate, you usually have quite a good line. So, for example, I go through this Wumpa crate, and my line's quite good, and I'm able to make it. So, the line to making that ultra shortcut is a little bit more precise than it would be if you were using Coco and Engine, for example. Which again is what I would highly recommend. So again, just to show it off, you get to the top of this spiral section, you U-turn, you can do this turn skip just by jumping, go through the Wumpa crate, and you're able to make it. And that's it. And then you can actually get an SG off of the downhill like this. Okay, this is insane. That's basically the optimal high skyway right there. That SG is absolutely insane, and saves like a second and a half. But you're not really focusing on getting the SG, you're just focusing on getting the shortcut. But that is optimal, what just happened right there. And yeah, so that's 2 of the 3 shortcuts. The third one I would only really recommend going for on lap 3, and I probably wouldn't recommend going for it if you're new to the game, period. This is one of the few shortcuts that's actually requires a certain amount of jump height, which is why this is actually easier with Dingo, because it doesn't have anything to do with turning, or your turning stat, should I say, because you're U-turning, which completely ignores the turning stat of your character. So it's just one precise jump and a U-turn in the right spot, and that is it. But it's quite difficult because it's very precise. Basically, this hairpin here, which you would usually do this for, where you U-turn and get the turbo pad, you can skip that hairpin, and it saves the most time on lap 3. And the reason it saves the most time on lap 3 is because, as you can see, on lap 1 and 2, you keep driving past the finish line because, the race is still going. You still want turbo pad fire for this because it's fast. Whereas on lap 3, you don't really care about your reserves too much because the race is about to end. So it's faster to do hairpin with the U-turn on lap 3 because you don't really care about your reserves because the race is about to finish. So I'll give it a shot now. This is quite a precise jump. There you go. So that's hairpin. You skip the turbo pad, and now you can kind of see why I would only really recommend going for on lap 3 because I don't have turbo pad fire because I kind of skipped the turbo pad. Still optimal though. Optimally, this saves like a second on lap 1 and 2, and it saves about 1.5 on lap 3. I would actually say nearer 2 seconds on lap 3. But yeah, that's kind of this track. It's very shortcut heavy, but for a person just starting out with the game, I would only really recommend the one where you jump over the wall because it saves the most time and is the easiest by a mile. So that's what I would recommend learning easily. Like,
so don't do hairpin or the loop skip starting out?
Don't do hairpin and don't do spiral skip.
Yep.
The spiral skip you'll hear commonly referred to as the ultra shortcut, but spiral skip works too. Yeah, just don't do those two when starting out, but do the one where you just jump over the wall. Nice and easy and saves 15 seconds per lap, which is like mental. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend there. And yeah, so at this point, you've done 15 tracks, and you have one left, and you're like, oh my gosh, final boss track, it's going to be so hard. No. This track is like one of the easiest tracks in the game. It's very easy. There is not much to mention. It is incredibly flat. There are barely any speed ghosts to speak of because of how flat it is. The only real thing to mention are these double jumps, because this is like this kind of weird like angle that this like terrain is at can act as a ramp. What you can do is you can do a double jump and get height like that, and that's going to be useful because we can basically like invent shortcuts with it. So for example, there's tires in the way, I can do a double jump and jump over the tire, and that is pretty much the extent of what is in this track, besides one shortcut that I will show because it's incredibly funny and not worth it at all, because if you get it, you save 1 second. If you fail it, you lose 15. So
15?
Don't go for it. Yes, it's really fun, man. So, okay, this is incredible actually. I have a boost item right now. I wouldn't usually mention this, but this track, as you can kind of tell, has 0 turbo pads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the 10 Wumpa, and then I'm going to use this boost item. And this gives me turbo pad fire on a track that doesn't have any turbo pads. This is actually incredibly lucky, and if this happens in a run, this is literally a free 2-second time save because the game told me that I could get a free 2-second time save. That's very lucky actually.
It seems very lucky, especially given that you're skipping a lot of the boxes too, so you have less opportunities to find the turbo item.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, and this is something I haven't really touched on, if you're open-minded enough to think about this while playing, what you can do is you can throw items away whilst playing in hopes that you get like a turbo item or something like that. It's only really useful on certain tracks, but it is a thing, I suppose. So yeah, that's kind of an idea, but I wouldn't really think about that, especially if you're just starting out. I wouldn't really think about that, but it is a thing, obviously, that you can do. And this is the shortcut. Again, we're going to use the same concept that we used last time on the last race, where what we're going to do is we're going to drive further up the track to activate checkpoints and load the rest of the track, and then we're going to do a shortcut. So we're going to drive up to here, and then U-turn. And you see these tires here? Another boost item. That's incredible. What we're going to do is we're going to fit through this gap here, which as you can see, we can't get through normally. However, if we have a very specific amount of speed going into this, we can actually make it through that gap. I made it in yesterday's run, and I still kind of can't believe it. I'll probably fade it here, but yeah. So that's what usually happens, and then you have to slowly turn out of it, and now you can see why it loses 15, and it's just depressing. But
it's funny because he sort of just mentioned at the end, yeah, we'll go for this in a way, like implying there was no way you can get it. Oh my god.
Yeah, like, of course. Like, these AI, man. Okay, let's wait until the AI pass. Let's smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. Okay, thank you for going past me. And yeah, so now we can try it without the AI rounds. So, we're gonna hop into the grass and then, try and fit through that gap. It's very hard. I would never go for it in a run, ever. I recommend you don't either. It's just something funny to mention that you can do. There you go. It's just something funny that you can do. But yeah, it saves a second and a half max, and yeah, it is what it is. It's a very cool. What are these boost items? Can we talk about this?
I don't know.
That's 3 in a row. That's like it's like a 15% chance to get a boost item in first, and I just got 3 in a row. What is that?
To be fair, I think at the last one you weren't first anymore.
Oh, okay. So
because you let them pass you, but you still had insane. 2 in a row in first.
Yeah, and like when you're not in first, by the way, I should actually mention this. This is a good thing to mention. When you're in first, you have a 40% chance to pull the item I have here, a TNT, and I'm pretty sure you have a 30% chance to pull a potion. And then the other 3 items that you can pull, which I don't remember the ratios of, but you can pull a bomb, a shield item, and a boost item in first as well. And those all have lower chances than the TNT and the potion. In second to 8th place, everything has a different chance, but you can pull every single item in the game in second to 8th. So for me to pull 2 boost items, and then another boost item when there were more items available to me, I don't know what to tell you. Very interesting. I should mention that tire shortcut there. You just do a U-turn because, as you can see on the minimap, that turn is incredibly tight. I think you actually want to U-turn that no matter what your character is, even if you're Coco and Engine. You just want to do the jump and then whilst in midair, do a U-turn, which, in case you forgot, is down a direction and square. And yeah, that is kind of it for this level. I like how the minimap suggests that you actually have to go wide of this, when you can literally just jump over this. I don't know what they were thinking. I guess technically it's a shortcut, like, sure. Because, yeah, I don't know. It's very strange that the game designers allowed you to do that. I'll show you what they intended you to do, I guess. It's very strange.
So if you're not taking any big risks on this track, this one's kind of like a victory lap if you get this far in a run.
Yeah, it's literally a victory lap, and especially if you're doing this cup last. If you're doing this cup like first, which is what I'd actually recommend doing, then this is like the 4th track in the run.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a break almost. But yeah, and yeah, that kind of wraps up the tutorial. I guess I'm gonna finish up here. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been very good. I hope it's been informative.
Yeah, it was really good.
And yeah, that's kind of it. But yeah, be back here for the race in 13 days, is it?
Yes.
13 days? Indeed. So, yeah, no, that was, yeah, hopefully informative.
On the 23rd, for people who are watching VODs, and it hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, so, okay. And I think we're going to be commentating on that, right? Is that the plan?
Yeah.
That's the plan now.
You'll be there, Alpha and Amber will be there as well.
Awesome. So, I guess one quick thing I should mention. I guess I'll plug my stuff, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
I stream pretty much every day. And I mainly play this game, so if you want to see more of this game, yeehaw, go follow me, I guess. I also do other speedrun stuff as well. I am predominantly a speedrunner. It is pretty much what you will see on my channel. But yeah, so pretty much I stream this game like every day, essentially. So if you want to see more, then here I am. Yeehaw.
So you mentioned that there's one run that isn't. There's one track that you didn't cover here in this tutorial. If people were looking to pick up the other category, where could they go to find a good overview of that one track we're missing here, just to round things out?
So one thing I would recommend watching, and this goes for just tutorials in general, there is a great but also very memely edited video called CTR Essentials on YouTube by Pull. It's 3 minutes long. Doesn't cover many things in depth, but it does cover a lot of things. And if you ever forget about something that I mentioned here, that's a great place to start. I don't believe actually there is a tutorial on Oxide Station, but you can kind of gather a lot of information about Oxide Station. And actually, I'll quickly just do a very quick playthrough of it now. Just to show it off. You won't see this in all cups. You won't be needing to do this on the race in 2 weeks. But basically, this shortcut, do not recommend doing this at all if you're starting off. What you can do is you can hit this wall and then drop down, skip the spiral. You're facing the wrong way, but by doing this, you've activated checkpoints for later. You then drive back in the face of the AI like an absolute madman. It's Coco again. That's the running theme of today, it seems.
Always Coco.
That's just the running theme. And then you use the same wall to jump onto it and then down to here. Then, that's the first shortcut. Don't do that at all. But you can learn this, and very similarly to a Hot Air Skyway wall jump, I recommend learning this before learning any runs, because for the record, the main category, any % no major glitches, has 4 boss races, and 2 of the boss races are on Hot Air Skyway and Oxide Station. So you will do this shortcut 6 times, which is an incredible time save. And it makes the final boss in this instance very easy, because you just skip and save 20 seconds. Literally, it's the easiest thing in the world. You go off this turbo pad, you jump, and you U-turn. Congratulations, you saved 20 seconds. And you can do that every lap, and voila. And that is the level, basically. And you just have this section, which is just driving, just don't hit a wall. And yeah, that's kind of it. I guess the last thing to mention about this level is if you don't do the first shortcut, which I would recommend not doing at all, you just drive down the spiral. Very simple. Just drive down here. Everything's fine. And then this turbo pad coming up is another instance of an ultimate sacred fire pad. And if you don't hit a wall on this section, which I'm going to, but if you don't hit a wall on this section, it's the same thing as Hot Air Skyway Cortex Castle and Engine Labs, where you keep that speed for a really long time and you just go flying. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The last level that I didn't cover in this entire game is Turbo Track. And Turbo Track, basically the gimmick of that level is that it has ultimate sacred fire pads all over the track, and you literally just hold L1, spam R1 for the entire level, and that's the level. So there isn't even much to cover there. So
oh my god.
Yeah, but that level is insane.
Well, thanks for the quick overview of that level for people who wanted to learn any %.
Yeah, but for the record, that's the category I'd actually recommend. If you want to keep running this game after the race in 2 weeks' time, learn any % no major glitches. It's an absolute blast of a category. And yeah, over 300 runs on the leaderboard, and it's easy to see why. It's very, very good.
The other question I would have is if people are looking at this later, or after the race, they've already done the race, they want to start getting into some of the harder tricks. Where can people go for help if they're kind of struggling with the harder tricks?
Unironically, and this sounds cliched, but people's Twitch chats. Go in there, ask questions. It's a very receptive community. People are very willing to help you. And yeah, just don't be shy. There are tons of people there to ask. And yeah, that's honestly what I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you have any shout outs or anything else you'd like to plug here before we wrap things up?
besides my own Twitch, shout outs to the CTR community for making this happen. The speedrunners come over like incredibly. Even just in the last year, I think the last year of CTR has probably been like the most insane in its history, to be quite frank. And the game's been out 20 years. So yeah. Besides that, I stream every day, and that's kind of it. Thank you to my sub Discord for allowing me to stream every day and pursue it as a full-time job. You guys are awesome. I love you all. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah. And I'd like to give a big thanks to HypnoShark, because it's a little bit late over there, but you still came on to this show and gave everybody a good tutorial on how to learn Crash Team Racing. So big thanks.
Yeah, no problem. The pleasure was all mine. It was an absolute joy. Thank you for having me.
So that's going to be it for us tonight here on the Community Spotlight. Just a quick overview of stuff. If you have a game you'd like to see on Hotfix in general, you can go to gamesdonequick.com/hotfix. There's a form in the bottom left side of that page you can click. Let us know games you'd like to see on our shows. And of course, if you tune in tomorrow, Time Capsule is going to be featuring a Final Fantasy X speedrun. But that's too long for a single night because we have a boss who tells us that we can't just do 12-hour streams. So they're going to split it up into two parts. So they're going to do sort of like kind of a quasi-segmented FF10 speedrun. So first part is tomorrow, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then in 2 weeks after that, they'll do the second part. First time we've ever managed to get that on the GDQ stream, so it'll be a lot of fun if you're a fan of the RPG speedruns. But check out gamesdonequick.com/hotfix for more information on all of our shows. Once again, big thanks to HypnoShark. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to raid someone. So if you all are still in the mood for some speedruns, stick around for a few minutes. We'll send you off to someone else's speedrunning. Go cheer them on, wish them well, and we'll see you tomorrow.